You found the Stealth Podcast. Tonight, we'll travel through dark and lonely stories. Where in the world are you watching from? What time is it there? Subscribe and leave your like to support us. Let's begin. My name is Vanessa Caldwell. I'm 29 years old, and I live in Portland, Oregon. After getting laid off from my tech job 6 months ago, I decided to embrace the opportunity for change by converting my grandmother's old Sprinter van into a mobile home. The conversion wasn't fancy, just a platform bed, a mini fridge that ran off solar, and enough storage for my clothes and photography equipment. My savings wouldn't last forever, but they would stretch much further on the road than in my overpriced Portland apartment. The Midwest wasn't originally on my itinerary, but when my college roommate Zoe invited me to her wedding in Chicago, I figured I'd make a proper road trip out of it. After the wedding, I decided to explore Indiana for a week before continuing east. I'd heard that Indianapolis had a surprisingly vibrant art scene, and I was curious to see it for myself. The drive south from Chicago was uneventful, flat farmland stretching to the horizon, occasionally broken by small towns that seemed frozen in time. Indianapolis surprised me with its blend of historic architecture and modern developments. I spent 2 days exploring the city, visiting museums, and taking photos of the urban landscape. By the third day, I was craving some nature, so I decided to head west to Turkey Run State Park. According to my research, it offered stunning hiking trails through ravines and along sandstone cliffs, perfect for the landscape photography I loved. I reached the park by mid-afternoon and spent several hours on the trails, capturing the play of light through the ancient trees. As sunset approached, I faced the usual Vanlifer's dilemma: find a campground and pay for a spot, or locate a stealth parking location for free. My budget was tight, and I'd become fairly adept at finding inconspicuous places to park overnight. The small towns surrounding Turkey Run seemed promising, quiet streets with minimal police presence. I settled on the town of Rockville, about 15 minutes from the park. It was small enough to be off the radar, but large enough that an unfamiliar vehicle wouldn't immediately raise suspicions. I found a spot behind an abandoned-looking warehouse on the edge of town. The building shielded my van from the main road, and there were no parking signs visible. Perfect. I made a simple dinner of pasta and canned sauce on my portable stove, then settled in with my laptop to edit the day's photos. Around 9, I noticed a car drive slowly past my location. Something about the deliberate way it moved sent a flicker of unease through me, but I dismissed it. Small-town curiosity about an out-of-state vehicle was normal. Just after midnight, I was awakened by voices outside my van. I froze, listening intently. 2 men were speaking in low tones, just a few feet from where I lay. "This is definitely it," one said. "Oregon plates, just like he described." My blood turned to ice. "They knew my van specifically?" The other voice responded, "You sure she's alone?" There was a pause, then, "Only saw one silhouette earlier. Should be easy." I reached silently for my phone, trying to control my panicked breathing. No signal, of course. The sound of metal scraping against metal told me they were trying to force the door lock. I had seconds to decide what to do. The van's cab was separated from the living area by a curtain. If I could get to the driver's seat without them noticing, I might be able to start the engine and escape. Moving as silently as possible, I slipped through the curtain just as I heard the side door slide open. I jammed the key into the ignition and turned it, the engine roaring to life as shouts of surprise erupted behind me. I floored the accelerator, the van lurching forward as someone grabbed at the open side door. There was a cry of pain as they fell away, unable to maintain their grip. In my rearview mirror, I caught a glimpse of 2 figures, one tall and thin, one stockier, illuminated briefly by my taillights before the darkness swallowed them. My hands shook violently on the steering wheel as I sped onto the main road. No destination in mind except away from Rockville, away from those men who had known exactly which van to look for. I drove aimlessly for nearly an hour, constantly checking my mirrors for headlights that might be following me. My mind raced with questions. How had they known about my van? What did they want? The phrase, "just like he described," echoed in my thoughts. Who was he? Eventually, I pulled into a well-lit truck stop off I-70, reasoning that the presence of other people would provide some safety. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving me shaky and nauseated. I locked all the doors and tried to think rationally about what had just happened. The most disturbing aspect was the specificity. They'd known my license plate, known I was traveling alone. I mentally retraced my steps over the past few days. Who had I spoken with? Where had I shared information about my travels? There was the barista in Indianapolis who'd asked about my van, the friendly couple at Turkey Run who'd admired my conversion, the gas station attendant in Rockville who'd commented on my Oregon plates. Any of them could have passed information to those men, though none had seemed threatening at the time. Then a chilling thought struck me: my Instagram. I'd been documenting my travels under the username @VanessaVanlife, posting photos of my van, the places I visited, often in real time. My account wasn't huge, about 3,000 followers, but it was public. Anyone could have been tracking my journey. With trembling fingers, I opened the app and scrolled through my recent posts. 2 days ago, I'd shared a photo of my van parked in front of the Indianapolis Museum of Art, Oregon plates clearly visible. Yesterday, I'd posted about heading to Turkey Run State Park. I'd essentially created a roadmap for anyone who wanted to find me. Dawn was breaking as I made a decision. I couldn't go to the police. What would I tell them? That 2 men had tried to open my van while I was illegally parked? That I suspected someone was stalking me via Instagram? Without evidence, I'd sound paranoid at best. No, my best option was to change my plans completely. Instead of continuing east as I'd intended, I would head south, deep into rural Indiana where I could keep a low profile while figuring out my next move. I deleted my recent Instagram posts and made my account private, then started the van and pulled back onto the highway. By mid-morning, I'd reached a small town called Bloomfield in Greene County. It was the kind of place that appeared untouched by time. A main street lined with brick buildings housing a hardware store, a diner, a post office. I parked in the public lot behind the library, figuring it was a safe place to rest for a few hours. Inside the library, I used their free Wi-Fi to research recent crimes in the area. What I found sent chills down my spine. Over the past 18 months, 3 solo female travelers had disappeared in western Indiana. One had been hiking the Knobstone Trail, one had been staying at a state park campground, and one, most disturbing of all, had been living in a converted van. The police reports indicated little progress in any of the cases. The van-dwelling woman, Meredith Chun, had last been seen at a gas station in Clay County, about 40 miles from where I now sat. Her van had been found abandoned at a rest stop 3 days later, with no signs of struggle but no trace of Meredith either. The article included a photo of her, a smiling Asian American woman about my age, standing proudly beside her white Sprinter van. My stomach dropped as I noticed the stickers on her rear window. One was for the Pacific Crest Trail, the same one I had on my van. I felt physically ill as the implications sank in. Were the men who tried to break into my van connected to these disappearances? Was I being targeted as the next victim in a series? I needed more information, but I also needed to keep moving. After downloading and saving the articles, I returned to my van, checking carefully for any signs that it had been tampered with during my absence. Finding nothing immediately concerning, I drove to the local diner, reasoning that locals might have insights the news articles lacked. The diner was nearly empty when I entered, just a couple of older men at the counter and a waitress wiping down tables. She greeted me with the friendly curiosity typical of small towns. "Just passing through?" she asked as she poured my coffee. I nodded, then carefully mentioned that I'd read about some disappearances in the area and was concerned about traveling alone. Her expression darkened. "You shouldn't worry too much," she said, but her tone suggested otherwise. "Just stick to public places, don't go wandering off alone." She hesitated, then added in a lower voice, "And maybe don't tell folks you're sleeping in your van." As I ate my sandwich, I overheard fragments of conversation between the men at the counter and the cook behind it. Another one missing from Worthington last week. Police saying it's unrelated. Always young women, always alone. The cook noticed me listening and fell silent, giving the others a meaningful look. I finished my meal quickly, suddenly eager to be back on the road despite my exhaustion. As I paid my bill, the waitress slipped me a pamphlet for a campground about 20 miles south. "They have security," she said pointedly. "Worth the money." Back in my van, I studied the campground pamphlet. It was called Shady Acres, a generic name that offered no real insight into what to expect. But the waitress's emphasis on security was appealing after the previous night's encounter. I decided to head there, hoping for a safe place to sleep and regroup. As I drove, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that someone was tracking my movements. Twice I took random turns to see if anyone followed, but the rural roads behind me remained empty. The campground was clean and well-maintained, with sites spaced comfortably apart among tall oak trees. A friendly older couple checked me in, assigning me a spot near the bathhouse. "Got someone in the spot next to you," the woman mentioned. "Another solo traveler like yourself? Nice young man from Michigan. Been here about a week." I thanked her and drove to my assigned space, noticing a sleek black transit van in the neighboring site. Something about it struck me as odd. It was heavily customized with dark tinted windows and high-end off-road tires that seemed out of place at this modest campground. As I was setting up my van for the night, the door of the black transit opened and a man stepped out. He appeared to be in his early 30s, clean-cut with an athletic build and a careful smile. "Hey there," he called, walking over. "Name's Ryan. Looks like we're neighbors." I introduced myself, cautious but not wanting to appear rude. He explained that he was a wildlife photographer working on a project about Indiana's bird species. Something about his story felt rehearsed, his friendliness a bit too immediate. When he mentioned that he'd been following the same general route I had, from Chicago through Indianapolis and the state parks, my internal alarms began blaring. How could he know my route? Sleep eluded me that night, despite the campground's supposed security. Every sound, a branch scraping against my roof, distant voices from other campsites, the occasional car engine, sent my heart racing. I kept thinking about Ryan, the photographer in the black transit. His appearance and story had seemed so carefully crafted, so convenient. And that comment about following my route. I hadn't mentioned my itinerary to him. By morning, I'd made a decision. I needed to learn more about Ryan while keeping my distance from him. If he was connected to the attempts to break into my van, or worse, to the disappearances, I needed evidence before going to the police. I left my campsite early, telling the owners I was heading out for a day of hiking but would return for another night. In reality, I drove to the Greene County Sheriff's Office in Bloomfield. I wasn't ready to report my suspicions. I still had no concrete evidence, but I wanted to gather more information about the disappearances. The deputy at the front desk was surprisingly forthcoming when I presented myself as a travel blogger researching safety tips for solo female travelers. "Those cases aren't technically in our jurisdiction," he explained, "but we've been coordinating with neighboring counties." The FBI got involved after the third one. The deputy's description of the investigation revealed disturbing patterns I hadn't found in my online research. All three missing women had been active on social media, documenting their travels. All had disappeared within a 50-mile radius. And most disturbingly, in each case, security cameras at nearby businesses had captured images of the same black transit van in the vicinity shortly before the women vanished. My blood ran cold. "Have you identified the owner of the van?" I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. The deputy shook his head. "Stolen plates. Changes them regularly. Driver's careful to avoid showing his face on camera." I thanked the deputy for his time, my mind racing. Could Ryan be the owner of that van? The coincidences were too strong to ignore, but I needed proof before making accusations. Back in my van, I formulated a plan. First, I needed to document Ryan's vehicle, get clear photos of it and its license plate. Then I would try to observe his behavior without him noticing me. If he left the campground, I might even be able to look through his windows, see if there was anything suspicious inside. It was risky, potentially illegal, but I felt I had no choice. Women were disappearing, and I might be next. When I returned to the campground, Ryan's van was gone. I felt a mixture of relief and frustration. Relief at not having to interact with him again. Frustration at losing the opportunity to investigate. I used the time to prepare my van for a quick departure if necessary, making sure everything was secured and the path to the driver's seat was clear. I also dug out the canister of bear spray I'd purchased for hiking in the Pacific Northwest. Not ideal self-defense, but better than nothing. As dusk fell, I grew increasingly anxious. Where was Ryan? Had he moved on to find another victim? Or was he watching me even now, waiting for darkness? Around 9 o'clock, headlights swept across my windows as a vehicle pulled into the neighboring site. I peered carefully through my curtains. It was the black transit, returning from wherever Ryan had been all day. As he parked, I noticed he was wearing different clothes than the day before. Dark pants and a hoodie that partially obscured his face. He carried something from the cab to the rear of his van, but from my angle, I couldn't see what it was. My instincts screamed danger, but I forced myself to remain calm. I needed evidence, not just suspicions. After about an hour, Ryan's interior lights went out. I waited another 30 minutes, then quietly slipped out of my van, phone in hand with the camera ready. The night was cloudy, with just enough moonlight filtering through to see by. I approached his vehicle from the rear, careful to stay in the shadows. The license plate was clearly visible, Michigan, just as he'd claimed. I took several photos, then moved to the side of the van. The windows were heavily tinted, but pressed against the glass, I could make out what looked like sophisticated camera equipment mounted on tripods. A wildlife photographer's gear, or surveillance equipment. As I moved toward the front of the van, a twig snapped under my foot. I froze, listening intently, but heard no movement from inside. Emboldened, I continued my inspection, taking photos of every detail that might be useful: the custom roof rack, the modified bumper, a small dent on the driver's door. I was about to return to my van when I noticed something on the ground near the front tire, a small object that gleamed dully in the faint moonlight. I crouched down to examine it without touching it. It was a bracelet, silver with a distinctive turquoise stone. My breath caught in my throat as I remembered a detail from one of the articles about the missing women. Meredith Chun had been wearing a silver and turquoise bracelet when she disappeared. I carefully photographed the bracelet where it lay, then used a stick to lift it into a plastic bag I had in my pocket. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. This was evidence, real, tangible evidence that could link Ryan to at least one of the disappearances. I needed to get to the police immediately. As I straightened up, planning my next move, a voice spoke directly behind me. "Finding anything interesting, Vanessa?" Ryan's voice was calm, almost amused. I spun around to find him standing just feet away, his face half hidden in shadow. How had he approached so silently? How long had he been watching me? I began, but he cut me off with a dismissive gesture. Searching my van? Taking photos? Planning to show them to the police? His tone remained conversational, but there was an undercurrent of menace that made my skin crawl. I wouldn't bother. They'll never find anything incriminating in my van. I'm very careful about that. He took a step closer, and I instinctively backed away, bumping into his vehicle. "The question is," he continued, "what am I going to do with you now? You've become quite a problem." In that moment, I realized with perfect clarity that I was face to face with a killer, the man responsible for at least 3 disappearances, possibly more. And no one knew where I was or what danger I was in. Ryan smiled, seeing the realization dawn on my face. "You're wondering if anyone would miss you," he said softly. "Your Instagram followers, perhaps? They'll just assume you've moved on to another adventure." He reached toward me, and I reacted without thinking, bringing my knee up hard between his legs. As he doubled over in pain, I bolted toward my van, fumbling for my keys as I ran. I reached my van seconds before Ryan recovered, slamming the door shut and locking it just as his fist pounded against the window. "Open the door, Vanessa," he demanded, his voice muffled but clear enough to send chills down my spine. "Let's talk about this rationally." His expression had transformed completely. Gone was the friendly photographer, replaced by something cold and calculating. I lunged for the driver's seat, jamming the key into the ignition with trembling hands. The engine roared to life, and I threw the van into reverse, nearly hitting Ryan as I backed out of the campsite. Tires squealing, I sped toward the campground exit, glancing in my rearview mirror to see Ryan sprinting toward his van. I had maybe a minute's head start, not nearly enough. The campground owners were nowhere to be seen as I blew past the office and onto the main road. My mind raced through options. The police station in Bloomfield was at least 15 minutes away. Ryan would catch up to me long before I reached it. My best chance was to find other people, witnesses who would make it difficult for him to do whatever he had planned. I spotted a gas station ahead, its fluorescent lights a beacon in the darkness. I pulled in sharply, nearly hitting a pump in my panic. There were 2 other vehicles fueling up, and a clerk visible through the window. Safety in numbers. I grabbed my phone and the plastic bag containing the bracelet, then hurried inside. "I need help," I told the startled clerk, a middle-aged woman with a name tag that read Judy. "Someone's following me. I need to call the police." She looked skeptical until she saw the genuine terror on my face. Use the phone behind the counter, she offered, lifting the divider to let me through. As I dialed 911, I saw headlights pull into the gas station, the black transit van. Ryan parked directly behind my vehicle, blocking it in. My heart hammered against my ribs as the dispatcher answered. I quickly explained the situation, describing Ryan, his van, and the bracelet I'd found. The dispatcher assured me officers were on their way, but it would take at least 10 minutes. 10 minutes alone with the killer. Stay inside the store, the dispatcher advised. Don't go outside for any reason. Ryan entered the gas station with smooth confidence, nodding pleasantly to the other customers as he approached the counter. There you are, he said, as if we were friends who had simply gotten separated. You took off so suddenly, I was worried. His eyes flicked to the phone in my hand, then to Judy. My girlfriend's had some problems with anxiety lately, he explained to her, his voice dripping with concern. Sometimes she gets these paranoid episodes. I'm just trying to get her home safely. Judy looked between us, uncertainty written across her face. The other customers were watching the drama unfold with undisguised curiosity. Is that true, honey? Judy asked me. Is he your boyfriend? I shook my head vehemently. I just met him yesterday. He's been stalking me. Please, the police are on their way. Don't let him near me. Ryan's expression darkened momentarily before he forced another concerned smile. See what I mean? These episodes can be quite convincing. I have her medication in the van if you'll just let me take her. She's staying right here until the police arrive. Judy interrupted, her voice firm. She reached under the counter and pulled out what looked like a baseball bat. You can wait outside. Ryan's mask slipped thin, just for a moment, revealing something ugly and dangerous underneath. But he quickly composed himself. Of course, he said smoothly. I'll wait in my van. When the police get here, they can sort this all out. He backed toward the door, his eyes never leaving mine. This isn't over, he added quietly, so only I could hear. Then he was gone, returning to his van. The minutes crawled by with excruciating slowness. Judy locked the door after Ryan left, but he made no attempt to force his way in. He simply sat in his van, engine running, watching the store. The other customers, sensing genuine danger, stayed inside as well, one of them, a burly trucker, positioning himself near the door as an additional deterrent. I clutched the plastic bag containing Meredith's bracelet, my only real evidence against Ryan. Without it, this might all be dismissed as a misunderstanding or, worse, as exactly what Ryan had claimed, a paranoid episode. Finally, red and blue lights flashed in the distance, growing brighter as they approached the gas station. Relief flooded through me, until Ryan's van suddenly roared to life, peeling out of the parking lot and accelerating in the opposite direction from the approaching police car. He's getting away, I cried, rushing to the door. The officer pulled into the gas station just as Ryan's taillights disappeared around a bend in the road. I burst outside, waving frantically to get the officer's attention. That was him, the black transit van. He's the one who's been taking those women. The officer, a young man who introduced himself as Deputy Martinez, radioed in a description of Ryan's vehicle as I explained what had happened, showing him the bracelet and the photos I'd taken. He listened intently, his expression growing more serious with each detail. We'll need you to come to the station to make a formal statement, he said when I finished. And we'll want that bracelet as evidence. I nodded, retrieving my van from where it was still parked by the pump. As I prepared to follow Deputy Martinez to the station, he added, Don't worry. We'll put out an APB on his vehicle. Every officer in the state will be looking for him. At the Greene County Sheriff's Office, I gave my statement to Deputy Martinez and an FBI agent who had been called in due to the potential connection to the other disappearances. I showed them the photos I'd taken of Ryan's van and recounted every detail of our interactions. The agent, a no-nonsense woman named Special Agent Reeves, examined the bracelet carefully. We'll need to confirm this belonged to Meredith Chun, she said. But if it does, this is the first real lead we've had in months. Hours passed as I answered questions and filled out forms. By the time they finished with me, dawn was breaking. We have officers searching for Ryan's van, Deputy Martinez assured me. But he has a significant head start. It would be best if you stayed somewhere secure until we locate him. Agent Reeves concurred. We can arrange for you to stay at a hotel under police protection. This man is clearly dangerous, and he knows who you are and what you drive. I accepted their offer, too exhausted and frightened to argue. They escorted me to a motel on the outskirts of Bloomfield, where a female officer would remain stationed outside my door. My van was parked around back, out of sight from the main road. As I settled onto the bed, the events of the past 24 hours replayed in my mind. I had looked a killer in the eye and somehow escaped. But for how long? Ryan had seemed so confident, so certain that he would never be caught. Was it possible he had connections that protected him? Or was he simply so experienced at evading capture that he felt invulnerable? Sleep eventually claimed me, but it was fitful and filled with nightmares. In them, Ryan found me no matter where I hid, his face transforming from the friendly photographer to something inhuman and monstrous. I woke with a start around noon, momentarily disoriented before remembering where I was and why. There was a knock at the door, gentle, but enough to send my heart racing. "Miss Caldwell? It's Officer Jenkins. I brought you some lunch." The female officer who had been guarding my door entered with a sandwich and coffee from a local deli. As I ate, Officer Jenkins updated me on the search for Ryan. His van had been spotted heading north toward Indianapolis, but he'd evaded the pursuing officers by driving onto a series of increasingly remote rural roads. "They've set up roadblocks on all major highways leading out of the state," she assured me. "And your description of him and his vehicle has been circulated to law enforcement nationwide." It should have been comforting, but I couldn't shake the fear that somehow Ryan would find a way to slip through the net. He had evaded capture for at least 18 months while abducting multiple women. What made them think they would catch him now? The answer came late that afternoon when Agent Reeves returned with news. "We found his van," she announced without preamble, "abandoned in a wooded area about 30 miles north of here." My surge of hope quickly faded as she continued. "He wasn't with it. It looks like he torched the interior to destroy evidence, but our forensic team is going over what's left." She hesitated, then added, "We did find something else, though. There was a hunting cabin about a quarter-mile from where he abandoned the van. Inside," she paused, choosing her words carefully, "we found evidence relating to the disappearances. I can't share details, but it's clear this man is responsible for what happened to those women." "So he's still out there," I said, the full implications sinking in. "And he knows I can identify him." Agent Reeves nodded grimly. "Which is why we're moving you to a more secure location. Pack your things. We leave in 10 minutes. As I gathered my meager possessions, a new fear took hold. Ryan had been so confident, so certain of his ability to evade capture. What if he had planned for this contingency? What if he had resources we didn't know about? The thought of spending my life looking over my shoulder, waiting for him to reappear, was almost as terrifying as the immediate danger had been. The secure location turned out to be a safe house in Indianapolis, a nondescript apartment building with a police substation on the ground floor. Agent Reeves explained that I would remain there while the manhunt for Ryan continued and during any subsequent trial, if he was captured. "We'll need to prepare you for the possibility that this could take months," she warned as we drove along I-70, two unmarked police vehicles escorting us. "This man has evaded identification for a long time. He's careful, methodical. The fact that he abandoned his van and disappeared suggests he has contingency plans." The safe house was Spartan but comfortable, a one-bedroom apartment with basic furnishings and heavy security. The windows were reinforced, the doors equipped with multiple locks, and surveillance cameras monitored the hallway and exterior. Agent Reeves introduced me to the two officers who would be guarding me in shifts, then handed me a prepaid phone. "Use this if you need to contact someone. Your regular phone and social media accounts are compromised. He may have been tracking you through them." She paused, her expression softening slightly. "I know this is difficult, but you've done the right thing. Your evidence is crucial to stopping this man." Days turned into weeks as I adjusted to my confined existence. I was allowed outside only for brief periods, always accompanied by an officer, and never to the same location twice. My van remained in police custody, both for safekeeping and because it was too easily identifiable. I spent my time reading, watching TV, and talking to the psychologist who visited twice weekly to help me process the trauma. The news covered the case extensively. "Serial killer's Indiana hunting ground discovered," the headlines proclaimed. But of Ryan himself, there was no sign. A month into my stay at the safe house, Agent Reeves arrived with a file folder and a troubled expression. "We've identified him," she announced. "His real name is Daniel Blackwood, former military intelligence, discharged under unclear circumstances 5 years ago. She spread photographs across the table, Ryan/Daniel in various disguises, looking subtly different in each one. He's been operating across multiple states, possibly responsible for up to 12 disappearances. The cabin we found was just one of his locations. The revelation that Ryan, Daniel, was ex-military explained his skills, his confidence, his ability to track and evade. So he could be anywhere, I said, the weight of this knowledge settling heavily on my shoulders. Agent Reeves nodded slowly. We're coordinating with agencies nationwide. But yes, he could be anywhere, and he could look like anyone. She hesitated, then added, there's something else you should know. We found journals at the cabin. He considers this a game, and he doesn't like losing. The implication was clear. I had become more than just a witness. I had become a challenge, someone who had escaped him and exposed his operation. He'll come for me, I stated, not a question, but a certainty. Agent Reeves didn't deny it. We're taking every precaution, she assured me. The safe house location is known only to a handful of officers. Your identity in our system has been classified. For all practical purposes, Vanessa Caldwell no longer exists. But I did exist, trapped in a sterile apartment with guards who changed shifts every 12 hours and a constant, gnawing fear that no amount of security could fully address. After 2 months, the psychological strain began to show. I lost weight, developed insomnia, jumped at every unexpected sound. The psychologist recommended medication to help me sleep, which I reluctantly accepted. It helped with the insomnia, but left me feeling foggy and disconnected during the day. The breakthrough came 3 months after my encounter with Daniel. A body had been discovered in a shallow grave near Cincinnati, a woman who matched the description of one of the missing persons. Forensic evidence linked her death to Daniel, and witnesses reported seeing someone matching his description in the area shortly before the discovery. He's active again, Agent Reeves explained during one of her now weekly visits. He's taking risks he wouldn't normally take. We think he's trying to draw you out. The knowledge that another woman had died, possibly as a message to me, was devastating. This can't continue, I told Agent Reeves, my hands shaking as I paced the small living room. More women will die while I hide here. There has to be another way. For the first time, I saw hesitation in the agent's usually confident demeanor. We've been discussing that possibility, she admitted. If he's fixated on you, he might make mistakes trying to find you. Mistakes we could exploit. The plan they proposed was risky but pragmatic. A controlled leak of information suggesting I had left protective custody, followed by my visible relocation to a different safe house. One that appeared minimally protected but was actually surrounded by undercover agents. I would be the bait in a carefully constructed trap. The decision was mine, Agent Reeves emphasized. I could remain in secure hiding indefinitely if I chose. But the thought of more innocent women dying while Daniel remained fixated on finding me was unbearable. Let's do it, I said, surprising myself with the steadiness of my voice. Let's end this. The operation was planned with meticulous care over the next 2 weeks. Every detail was considered, every contingency addressed. I would be moved to a small house in a quiet neighborhood in Terre Haute, ostensibly placed in the Witness Protection Program rather than under direct FBI protection. The story leaked to select sources would suggest that I had grown frustrated with confinement and demanded more freedom. The house would appear to have minimal security, just one visible officer, while in reality, every neighboring home would be occupied by agents, and surveillance would be constant. The day of the move was sunny but cold, early winter having settled over Indiana. I was fitted with a tracking device disguised as a bracelet and a panic button hidden in a necklace. The drive to Terre Haute was tense, everyone aware that this was when I would be most vulnerable. But we arrived without incident, and I was settled into the house that would serve as both my new prison and the stage for whatever confrontation was to come. Remember, Agent Reeves reminded me as she prepared to leave, maintaining the fiction that I would be largely on my own. Don't deviate from the routine we established. Predictability is key. We want him to think he can plan around your movements. For 5 days, nothing happened. I followed my assigned routine. A short walk each morning with my protective officer. A trip to the local grocery store every other day. Evenings spent with lights on and curtains partially open to ensure my silhouette was visible from outside. Each night, I went to bed wondering if this would be the night Daniel made his move. Each morning, I woke surprised to find another day had passed without incident. On the sixth night, a storm moved in, bringing howling winds and a power outage that plunged the neighborhood into darkness. The backup generator kicked in as it was supposed to, providing minimal lighting and maintaining the surveillance equipment. But the atmosphere had changed. The darkness outside seemed deeper, the howling wind masking any sounds of approach. I sat in the living room, pretending to read by the light of a battery-powered lamp, while my every sense strained for any sign of intrusion. The attack, when it came, was not from outside but from within. My protective officer, a veteran agent named Harkins, entered the living room with a cup of tea he'd prepared for me. It was part of our nightly routine, nothing unusual, but as he handed me the cup, his expression changed subtly. "Something's wrong," he said quietly, his hand moving toward his weapon. Before he could draw it, he staggered, his face contorting in pain. He collapsed to his knees, then fell forward onto the carpet, revealing a small dart protruding from his back. Panic surged through me as I realized what was happening. Someone had compromised our security. I lunged for the panic button on my necklace, but my fingers felt suddenly numb, refusing to obey my commands. The teacup slipped from my grasp, shattering on the floor as a wave of dizziness overcame me. "The tea," I whispered, understanding too late. The room tilted sickeningly as I collapsed onto the couch, fighting to remain conscious. Through blurring vision, I saw a figure step from the hallway that led to the bedrooms, a figure that shouldn't have been there. It wasn't Daniel's face that I saw, but the face of Agent Reeves. "You're wondering how I got inside," she said, her voice oddly detached as she knelt beside Agent Harkins, checking for a pulse. Finding none, she straightened and turned to me. "I've been inside all along, Vanessa. I've been inside from the beginning." My mind refused to process what I was seeing. Agent Reeves, the woman who had protected me, who had designed this entire operation, was working with Daniel? No, something worse was dawning on me as she removed a communication device from her pocket. "It's clear," she said into the device. "South entrance." Moments later, Daniel emerged from the same hallway, his expression calm and focused as he surveyed the scene. He nodded approvingly at Agent Reeves before turning his attention to me. "Special Agent Catherine Reeves," he said with genuine admiration. 12 years undercover in the FBI. My greatest asset." He moved to stand beside her, placing a hand familiarly on her shoulder. "We were partners in military intelligence. Did she forget to mention that?" The drug in the tea was clouding my thoughts, but the horrifying truth was becoming clear. There had never been a manhunt. The safe house, the protection, the entire operation, it had all been an elaborate charade, designed not to catch Daniel, but to isolate me completely. "Why?" I managed to ask, the words slurring as the drug took firmer hold. "All those women." "Practice," Daniel replied simply. "Perfecting our methods. But you were special from the moment I saw your Instagram posts. So independent, so careful, yet so predictable." He crouched down to my eye level. "Catherine infiltrated the FBI years ago to protect our operation. When you ran to the police, you ran straight to us." Agent Reeves, Catherine, checked her watch. "We need to move soon. The real FBI will be doing a check-in within the hour." She began gathering items from around the room, methodically removing any trace of their presence. "The bodies," I whispered, fighting against the encroaching darkness at the edges of my vision. "In the cabin." "Planted," Daniel said with a small smile. "Evidence created and discovered by Catherine. Enough to confirm my guilt, but never enough to find me. The perfect justification to keep you isolated indefinitely." He stood up, nodding to Catherine. "She's ready for transport." As Catherine prepared a syringe, Daniel leaned close to me once more. "No one is looking for me, Vanessa. No one will be looking for you. As far as the world is concerned, I'm still a wanted fugitive, and you're safely in protective custody." His voice was almost gentle, the perfect cover for both of us to disappear. The needle slid into my arm, and the last of my consciousness began to fade. Through the gathering darkness, I heard Catherine's clinical voice. "Subject is secured. Proceeding with extraction." The storm continued to rage outside as I slipped into unconsciousness, Daniel's final words echoing in my mind. "Welcome to your new life, Vanessa. You'll make number 13. In my last moments of awareness, I realized the cruel irony. I had spent months hiding from a predator, only to discover I had been living with one all along. The trap had been perfectly designed, not to catch Daniel, but to catch me, and I had walked into it willingly, never suspecting that my cage had been built by those I trusted to protect me. The safe house grew silent save for the howling of the wind, leaving no witnesses to my disappearance. Just another vanished woman on a lonely road, a mystery that would never be solved. My name is Thaddeus Mercer. I'm 34 years old, and I live in Chicago. After burning out from my advertising job, I decided to embrace the Vanlife lifestyle that had been calling to me for years. I converted an old Ford Transit myself, complete with a compact kitchen, fold-out bed, and even a tiny bathroom tucked in the corner. My Instagram followers loved the transformation posts, but they had no idea what was waiting for me in Indiana. I'd been on the road for 3 months when I decided to explore Brown County State Park. October in Indiana meant spectacular fall colors, and I was eager to capture some stunning photos for my growing travel blog. The drive from Indianapolis had been peaceful, winding roads cutting through a landscape of crimson and gold. I'd stopped at a small diner in Nashville, Indiana, where a weathered local had warned me about staying in the park after dark. "People go missing there sometimes," he'd muttered over his coffee. I'd laughed it off as small-town superstition. The park was even more beautiful than I'd imagined. I spent the afternoon hiking, the crisp autumn air filling my lungs as I photographed the vibrant canopy overhead. By sunset, I was exhausted but satisfied with the day's adventure. Rather than paying for a campsite, I decided to find a secluded spot to park for the night. One of the perks of stealth camping in a van that looked relatively normal from the outside. I found a quiet service road that seemed rarely used and backed my van against a thick cluster of trees. Perfect coverage. The spot offered a breathtaking view of the valley below, now bathed in the fading purple light of dusk. I heated up some leftover pasta on my portable stove and cracked open a beer, feeling utterly content as I watched the stars appear one by one above the tree line. Around midnight, I was jolted awake by headlights sweeping across my windows. My heart hammered as I peered through the curtains. A pickup truck had pulled up about 50 yards away, its engine cutting off abruptly. 2 men climbed out, flashlights in hand. Park rangers? Security? Either way, I wasn't supposed to be camping here. I watched in silence as they opened the truck's tailgate and pulled something large and heavy from the bed, something wrapped in what looked like a tarp. My blood ran cold. The object was long and distinctly human-shaped. I fumbled for my phone, but found no signal. Classic horror movie scenario, except this was terrifyingly real. The men dragged the bundle deep into the woods, their flashlight beams bobbing through the trees until they disappeared from sight. I sat frozen, debating what to do. If I started my engine now, they'd definitely hear me. But staying put suddenly felt like the worst idea possible. I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just witnessed something truly disturbing. 20 minutes later, the flashlights reappeared, moving back toward the truck. I ducked down, my heart pounding so loudly I was certain they could hear it. As they passed closer to my van, I caught fragments of their conversation through my partially cracked window. "4th one this month. Getting sloppy. Police looking in the wrong places." Then, chillingly, "Did you check for cameras around here?" The truck's doors slammed shut, and the engine roared to life. As they pulled away, I allowed myself to breathe again, my hands shaking uncontrollably. What had I just witnessed? My mind raced through the possibilities, each one more terrifying than the last. I needed to get out of here, to find a police station, to report what I'd seen. But something kept me rooted in place. Fear, yes, but also a morbid curiosity. What if I could gather evidence? What if I could help catch whoever these people were? Sleep was impossible after what I'd witnessed. I spent the rest of the night clutching my phone, praying for a signal, and jumping at every sound the forest made. By dawn, I was exhausted but determined to get the hell out of Brown County State Park. I started the van as quietly as possible, wincing at every cough of the engine, and slowly navigated back to the main road. The morning mist hung low over the trees, creating an eerie veil that only amplified my mounting dread. Once I hit actual pavement, I accelerated faster than was probably safe on the winding roads. My hands were still trembling on the steering wheel. I needed to find a police station, but doubt was already creeping in. What exactly had I seen? A body? I couldn't be certain. And these men, what if they were connected to local law enforcement? The conversation I'd overheard suggested something organized, something that had been happening for a while. Fourth one this month, they'd said. The implications made my stomach turn. I pulled into a gas station in Nashville, desperate for coffee and a moment to collect my thoughts. The cashier, a young woman with tired eyes, barely looked at me as I paid. I hesitated, then asked if there had been any reports of missing persons in the area. Her expression shifted subtly. People go missing in these parts all the time, she said flatly. Hikers, mostly. They wander off trail, get lost. Her eyes met mine. Why? You see something you shouldn't have. Before I could respond, another customer entered, and she turned away. The interaction left me feeling even more unsettled. Back in my van, I pulled up news sites on my phone, searching for any reports of disappearances in southern Indiana. The results were disturbing. Over the past 6 months, 12 people had vanished in the general vicinity of Brown County, mostly solo hikers or campers, but also 2 locals who'd last been seen driving home late at night. The police had found 3 bodies so far, all showing signs of what the articles vaguely described as ritualistic violence. The most recent disappearance had been just 4 days ago, a 27-year-old photographer from Cincinnati. I debated my options while sipping scalding coffee that did nothing to warm the chill that had settled in my bones. Going to the police seemed like the obvious choice, but what could I actually tell them? That I'd been illegally camping and saw 2 men with what might have been a body? I had no proof, no images, not even a license plate number from their truck. Would they take me seriously or dismiss me as another tourist with an overactive imagination? A notification popped up on my phone, a text from my sister, Elaine. How's Indiana? Send pics of your adventure. The normalcy of the message felt surreal against the horror of my current situation. I couldn't bring myself to respond. Instead, I opened my Maps app and looked for the nearest police station. There was one 15 miles south in a town called Bean Blossom. Decision made. I started the van and pulled back onto the road. The police station in Bean Blossom was little more than a converted house with an American flag and a small sign out front. I parked across the street, rehearsing my story in my head. As I was about to get out, I noticed a familiar pickup truck parked at the side of the building. My blood turned to ice. It couldn't be the same one. There must be hundreds of dark blue Fords in this county. But then the station door opened, and a uniformed officer stepped out. Even from across the street, I recognized his gait, his build. It was one of the men from last night. I slumped down in my seat, panic rising in my throat. The officer climbed into the pickup and drove off, seemingly unaware of my presence. My mind raced with terrible realizations. If the local police were involved, who could I trust? The state police? The FBI? And how would I reach them without alerting whoever was part of this? I started the van again, no longer concerned about finding help here. My new priority was getting as far away from Bean Blossom as possible. As I drove north, a new plan formed in my mind. I couldn't leave, not when I might be the only witness to whatever was happening in these woods. People were dying, and somehow the killers were operating with impunity. I needed evidence, concrete proof that would force authorities beyond this corrupt little jurisdiction to take action. I pulled into a shopping center in Bloomington and bought a high-resolution camera with the last of my savings. If I was going to play detective, I would need to document everything. Nightfall found me back in Brown County State Park, this time with a carefully chosen vantage point overlooking the service road where I'd seen the truck the previous night. I'd parked a quarter-mile away and hiked in with my camera, a powerful flashlight, and a hunting knife I'd purchased at a sporting goods store. My hands shook as I checked the battery on the camera for the 3rd time. What was I doing? I wasn't a detective or a journalist. I was a former advertising executive living in a van. But the faces of those missing people I'd researched earlier haunted me. If not me, then who would help them? The forest grew unnervingly quiet as darkness settled fully among the trees. No birds, no insects, just the occasional rustle of leaves in the light breeze. I checked my watch, 11:30 p.m. If the pattern held, they might return tonight with another victim. The thought made me physically ill, but I forced myself to focus on the camera settings, making sure I could capture clear images even in low light. The weight of the knife against my hip offered little comfort. What would I actually do if confronted? I had no combat training, no experience with violence. A distant engine sound broke the silence. I pressed myself flat against the ground, peering through a gap in the underbrush. Headlights appeared, moving slowly along the service road. The same blue pickup. My heart pounded so violently I worried they might somehow hear it. The truck stopped almost exactly where it had the night before, and the same two men emerged. The driver was definitely the police officer I'd seen earlier. The passenger was taller, wearing a dark jacket with some kind of insignia I couldn't make out. They both wore gloves. This time, they didn't immediately go to the truck bed. Instead, they walked around to the passenger side and opened the door. A third person emerged, or rather, was dragged out. Even from my hiding spot, I could see this person's hands were bound, and there appeared to be a hood over their head. I bit down hard on my knuckle to keep from gasping. This wasn't the disposal of a body. This was an abduction in progress. I raised my camera with trembling hands and began taking photos, the soft click of the shutter impossibly loud in my ears. The captive, I couldn't tell if it was a man or woman, stumbled as they were forced toward the woods. The taller man yanked them roughly by the arm while the officer scanned the surroundings with a flashlight. For one heart-stopping moment, the beam passed just above my position. I held my breath until my lungs burned. The trio disappeared into the trees, following what seemed to be a trail I hadn't noticed during daylight hours. I waited until their flashlight beams were distant before slowly rising to my feet. Every instinct screamed at me to run back to my van and drive until I crossed the state line. But those missing people, that person they just dragged into the woods. I couldn't just leave. Before I could talk myself out of it, I began to follow, staying far enough behind that their lights were merely pinpricks in the darkness. The forest floor was treacherous. Roots and rocks threatened to trip me with every step. I moved as quietly as possible, guided only by the distant flashlight beams and my own sense of impending doom. After what felt like an eternity, but was probably only 15 minutes, the lights stopped moving. I crept closer, using trees for cover, until I could make out a clearing ahead. What I saw there defied comprehension. A small cabin stood in the center, its windows glowing with an ominous reddish light. Around it, crude symbols had been carved into tree trunks and painted on rocks. The two men were leading their captive toward the cabin door. From inside, I could hear a low, rhythmic chanting. There were more people in there. My hands shook violently as I raised the camera again, zooming in as much as possible while still maintaining image clarity. I took several shots of the cabin, the symbols, the men, their truck, anything that could serve as evidence. As the door to the cabin opened, the chanting grew louder, and I caught a glimpse of robed figures inside. This wasn't just murder. This was something ritualistic, organized, and deeply disturbing. I lowered the camera, suddenly aware of how exposed I was despite the darkness. As the door closed behind them, cutting off my view, I heard a scream so filled with terror and pain that it would haunt me for the rest of my life. My body reacted before my mind could process. I turned and ran back the way I'd come, no longer concerned with stealth. Branches whipped at my face, roots grabbed at my feet, but fear gave me a preternatural agility. I ran until my lungs were on fire, until I could no longer hear anything but my own desperate breathing and the thundering of my heart. When I finally reached my van, I fumbled with the keys, certain that at any moment I would feel a hand on my shoulder. I drove like a man possessed, ignoring speed limits and taking random turns in an attempt to put as much distance between myself and that cabin as possible. My mind kept replaying that scream, imagining what horrors were occurring in that red-lit room. I needed to get these photos to someone who could help, someone outside this county, outside this state even. The images on my camera might be the only chance those victims had. The highway signs for Indianapolis appeared ahead, and I made a split-second decision. A big city meant anonymity, resources, federal offices. I could go to the FBI there. Dawn was breaking as I pulled into a 24-hour diner on the outskirts of Indianapolis. I hadn't slept in over 30 hours, and exhaustion was taking its toll. My hands trembled as I connected my camera to my laptop, transferring the images to a secure cloud account as backup. The photos were clear, disturbingly so. The officer's face was fully visible in several shots. The symbols around the cabin were distinct, unlike anything I'd ever seen before. And the cabin itself, isolated, seemingly built specifically for whatever rituals they were conducting. This had to be enough evidence to warrant an investigation. The waitress refilled my coffee cup without asking, giving me a concerned look. "You okay, honey? You look like you've seen a ghost." I forced a smile and thanked her, not trusting myself to say more. On the television mounted in the corner, a local news program was running a story about another missing person, a college student last seen at a gas station near Brown County. The image they showed was of a young woman with long dark hair and a bright smile. My stomach lurched. Could she have been the hooded figure I saw? After paying for my meal, I sat in my van researching the location of the FBI field office in Indianapolis. According to their website, they opened at 8:30 a.m. I had about 2 hours to kill and desperately needed a shower and clean clothes if I wanted them to take me seriously. I found a truck stop with shower facilities, paid for a stall, and stood under the hot water until some of the tension left my body. As I was dressing, my phone pinged, an email notification. Someone had attempted to access my cloud account from an unrecognized device. A chill ran down my spine. How was that possible? I drove to the FBI office with mounting paranoia, checking my rearview mirror obsessively for any sign of a blue pickup. The building was modern and imposing, with security measures that made me feel simultaneously safer and more anxious. At the reception desk, I requested to speak with an agent about a potential serial killer case, trying to keep my voice steady. The receptionist's expression remained neutral as she asked me to take a seat in the waiting area. 20 minutes passed before a man in a dark suit approached me, introducing himself as Special Agent Donovan. In a private interview room, I recounted everything I'd seen over the past 2 days, showing him the photos I'd captured. Agent Donovan's face remained impassive, but I noticed his posture stiffen as he scrolled through the images. "You said one of these men is a local police officer?" he asked, his voice carefully professional. I nodded, pointing to the clearest image of the officer's face. Donovan studied it for a long moment. "And you're certain this was in Brown County State Park?" When I confirmed, he excused himself, taking my laptop with him after asking for permission. I sat alone in the room, exhaustion and fear battling for dominance. Agent Donovan returned 30 minutes later with another agent, an older woman who introduced herself as Special Agent Rivera. Her expression was grave as she sat across from me. "Mr. Mercer, what you've brought us is concerning. We've identified the officer in your photos as Deputy Ray Caldwell from the Bean Blossom Department." She paused, exchanging a look with Donovan. "What's more concerning is that we've had suspicions about unusual activity in that area for some time, but lacked concrete evidence to pursue an investigation. Your photos may have just changed that." What happened next was a blur of formal statements, evidence logging, and discussions about protective custody. The agents explained that if this was indeed a cult operating with the protection of local law enforcement, my life could be in serious danger. They asked if I had contacted anyone else about what I'd seen. I thought back to the attempted access of my cloud account and felt my blood run cold. "I think they might already know about me," I admitted. Agent Rivera's expression hardened. "In that case, we need to move quickly." As we were finalizing arrangements for me to stay at a secure location, the interview room door burst open. A man in a suit flashed a badge too quickly for me to read and stated that he was taking over the case. Agent Rivera looked stunned. "On whose authority?" she demanded. The newcomer handed her a document, which drained the color from her face as she read it. "Mr. Mercer will be coming with me," he stated flatly. "National security concerns." Donovan started to protest, but Rivera placed a restraining hand on his arm, her expression warning him to stand down. My heart sank as the realization hit me. Whatever this cult was, its influence extended far beyond a small Indiana town. The man who'd taken over my case identified himself as Director Harmon from a department I'd never heard of. He drove me personally to what he called a secure facility for debriefing, but my instincts screamed that something was deeply wrong. The facility turned out to be an unmarked building on the outskirts of the city. No security checkpoints, no visible personnel, just an empty parking lot and a nondescript structure that could have been an abandoned office building. As Harmon led me through the door, I noticed a small symbol etched into the frame, identical to one I'd photographed near the cabin. Inside, the building was eerily quiet. Harmon directed me to a sparsely furnished room with no windows and a single door. "Wait here," he instructed. "Someone will be in shortly to take your full statement." The moment he left, I heard the distinctive click of a lock engaging. I was trapped. Panic rose in my throat as I searched for any way out, any tool I could use as a weapon. The room was deliberately empty. Not even a chair I could break for a makeshift weapon. My phone had been confiscated at the FBI office as evidence, leaving me completely isolated. Hours passed with no sign of Harmon or anyone else. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the occasional distant sound of footsteps. I paced the room until exhaustion forced me to sit on the floor, back against the wall, fighting to stay awake. I couldn't afford to let my guard down, not when I was almost certainly in the hands of the very people I'd been trying to expose. As night fell, or so I assumed from the gradual dimming of the light from the single fixture overhead, the temperature in the room began to drop dramatically. The cold was deliberate, a tactic to wear me down physically and mentally. By what must have been midnight, I was shivering uncontrollably, my teeth chattering so hard it was painful. When the door finally opened, I was too numb to react quickly. 3 figures entered: Harmon, Deputy Caldwell from Bean Blossom, and a third man I didn't recognize, tall and gaunt with penetrating eyes. They wore normal clothes, not the robes I'd seen at the cabin, but their expressions held the same fanatical intensity. "Mr. Mercer," the tall man spoke with a surprisingly gentle voice. "You've caused quite a stir in our community." He pulled up the only chair in the room and sat across from me. "For generations, we have worked to maintain balance in this region. The sacrifices we make are necessary, chosen carefully to feed the entity that protects our lands, our prosperity." His matter-of-fact tone as he discussed human sacrifice was perhaps more terrifying than any ranting could have been. He truly believed in what they were doing. I found my voice, though it emerged as little more than a rasp. "People are being murdered. Innocent people." The tall man smiled sadly, as if I were a child who couldn't grasp a simple concept. "Not murdered, Mr. Mercer. Transformed. Elevated. Their energy feeds something ancient, something that has blessed our community for centuries." He leaned forward. "How do you think a small county in Indiana has maintained such prosperity while others crumbled? Why our crops never fail, our businesses thrive, our children excel?" Harmon stepped forward then, holding my camera. "Unfortunately, we can't allow this information to spread. The outside world wouldn't understand the necessity of our work." He turned to Caldwell. "Is everything prepared?" The deputy nodded, his expression grimly satisfied. The tall man rose from his chair. "Mr. Mercer, you have a choice. Join us, become part of something greater than yourself, or become the next offering." His eyes gleamed with fervent belief. "Many who witness our work choose to join us. Your skills could be valuable." The offer was so unexpected, so absurd, that I almost laughed despite my terror. They wanted me to join their murder cult? To help them abduct and sacrifice people to some entity they believed brought prosperity? I looked from face to face, searching for any sign of humanity, any opening I could exploit. Finding none, I made my decision. "I'd like to understand more." I lied, forcing my voice to sound curious rather than disgusted. "How does someone join? What would be expected of me?" My apparent interest pleased them. The tension in the room shifted perceptibly. "The initiation is tonight," the tall man explained. "You would witness the transformation, then participate in the next one." Caldwell looked skeptical, but Harmon seemed convinced by my act. "He could be useful," Harmon told the others. "His van provides mobility we lack, and as an outsider, he wouldn't raise suspicions." I nodded eagerly, playing the role of the convert while my mind raced through escape scenarios. If they took me to the cabin, there might be a chance, however slim, to flee during the transfer. What I hadn't anticipated was that the initiation would begin immediately, right there in that windowless room. Caldwell produced a knife, ornate and ancient-looking, while Harmon retrieved a small wooden box from his jacket. The tall man began chanting in a language I didn't recognize, his voice rising and falling in hypnotic patterns. From the wooden box, Harmon removed a small object that glistened wetly in the harsh light. Something organic that pulsed with an impossible rhythm. My stomach turned as I realized what it was, a piece of human tissue, somehow still living outside a body. As they approached me, still chanting, still holding that abomination, I made my final desperate move. I lunged for the door, surprising Caldwell, whose attention had been fixed on the ritual. We collided, his knife slashing wildly across my arm. The pain was immediate and searing, but adrenaline kept me moving. I slammed my full weight against him, driving him back into Harmon, who dropped the box. The pulsing tissue fell to the floor with a sickening, wet sound. The tall man's chant turned to a cry of alarm. In the chaos that followed, I somehow made it through the door and into a hallway lined with more doors, all locked, all potentially hiding horrors I couldn't imagine. Behind me, I could hear them recovering, pursuing. I ran blindly, following the hallway as it curved, desperately seeking an exit. When I finally found a door marked with an exit sign, I hit it at full speed, bursting into the cool night air. But freedom was short-lived. The parking lot was now filled with vehicles, and robed figures were emerging from them, converging on the building for what I now realized was their midnight ritual. Surrounded and weakening from blood loss, I made one final, desperate choice. Rather than allowing myself to be captured again, to become either a convert to their madness or their next sacrifice, I charged toward the dense woods beyond the parking lot. Shouts followed me, then footsteps, then the crack of a gunshot. Pain exploded in my back, driving me to my knees. As consciousness began to fade, my last thought was of the missing people whose faces I'd studied, wondering if any had tried to escape as I had, wondering if their final moments had been filled with the same terrible clarity about the darkness that lurked in these Indiana woods. The truth about what happens in Brown County remains buried with its victims. The horror continues, just beyond the notice of the outside world, protected by those who should be stopping it. And travelers in vans continue to disappear, their stories untold, their fates sealed by the ancient hunger that lives in those seemingly picturesque forests. The engine of my converted Ford Transit hums softly as I pull into a deserted lot on the edge of Gary, Indiana. I'm Elton Marrow, 29 years old, from Indianapolis, and I've been living the van life dream for 2 years now. The lot's near an old steel mill, all rusted girders and broken windows, the kind of place that screams horror movie set. I picked it because it's quiet, off the radar, perfect for stealth camping. My van, nicknamed Rusty, is my home. Solar panels, a cozy bed, and a mini fridge stuffed with cheap beer and ramen. I'm not here for long, just passing through on my way to Chicago for a freelance gig. The sun's dipping low, painting the sky a bruised purple, and I'm beat from driving all day. I lock the doors, crack a window, and settle in with my laptop, the glow cutting through the dusk. The mill looms outside, a hulking shadow that feels like it's watching me. I shake off the creepy vibe. Too many late-night horror flicks, I guess. I'm used to parking in weird spots, abandoned lots, forest clearings, even a Walmart parking lot once. But Gary's got a reputation, you know? It's rough, with empty houses and crime stats that'd make anyone twitchy. Still, I'm careful. My van's blackout curtains are up, and I've got a baseball bat by the bed, just in case. I sip my beer, scroll through X for local tips on Gary, and find nothing but warnings about break-ins. Disturbing, sure, but I'm not paranoid. I've got my routine: park, eat, sleep, move on. Simple. I heat up some ramen, the smell filling the van, and check my phone. No signal out here, which is annoying but not unusual. I'm a loner by choice, left Indy to escape the 9 to 5 grind and a bad breakup. Van life is freedom, but it's lonely sometimes. I think about calling my buddy Theo back in Indy, just to chat, but decide against it. Instead, I pull out my journal, scribbling about the road so far. Little diners, quirky roadside signs, the thrill of nowhere. The mill's silhouette catches my eye through a gap in the curtain. It's eerie, like something out of a scary story my mom used to tell about abandoned places being haunted. I laugh it off, but my skin prickles. I notice a faint light flickering across the lot, maybe a street lamp dying out. It's weird, but I'm too tired to care. I finish my ramen, brush my teeth in my tiny sink, and crawl into bed. The van's my safe space, my little world on wheels. I've parked in worse places, like that creepy desert spot in Nevada where coyotes howled all night. This is nothing, I tell myself. Just another night. I flip off the interior lights, and the darkness swallows everything. Outside, the wind picks up, rattling the mill's loose metal. It's not a big deal, but I double-check the locks anyway. You can never be too careful, right? The lot feels too quiet now, like the world's holding its breath. I try to focus on my breathing, a trick I learned to calm my nerves after a sketchy night in New Mexico. Back then, some drunk guy banged on my van at 2 a.m., yelling about aliens. Scary, but harmless. This feels different, though. I can't place why. Maybe it's the stories about Gary, how it's a ghost town with a dark side. I pull my blanket tighter, telling myself I'm just spooked by the vibe. My bat's within reach, and Rusty's my fortress. I close my eyes, willing sleep to come, but something nags at me, like I've missed a detail. I think about the locals I saw earlier at a gas station a mile back. Gruff guy in a flannel, staring too long at my van. Cashier muttering about weirdos hanging around lately. I didn't think much of it then, just small-town gossip. But now, alone in the dark, it feels heavier, more disturbing. I'm probably overthinking it. I've got my pepper spray, my bat, and a plan. Leave at dawn, no fuss. I turn on a podcast to drown out the silence. Some true crime thing about a killer in the Midwest. Bad choice, maybe, but it's just noise. The host's voice lulls me, and I start to drift. The podcast cuts out mid-sentence. My phone's still on, but the signal's dead. Weird, but not impossible out here. I tap the screen, hoping it'll reconnect, but nothing. The van's quiet now, too quiet. I sit up, peering through the curtain gap. The flickering light's gone, leaving just the mill's dark shape. My heart's doing that annoying thud-thud thing, like when you know something's off but can't prove it. I tell myself it's nothing, just my imagination running wild. But I grab the bat anyway, resting it across my lap. Better safe than sorry. I lie back down, eyes on the ceiling, listening hard. The wind's died down, but there's a new sound, faint, like a low hum. Maybe machinery from the mill? It's shut down, though, has been for years. I strain to hear it better, but it's gone. My mind's playing tricks, probably. I've been on the road too long, seeing horror in every shadow. I force a chuckle, trying to lighten the mood, but it feels hollow. I close my eyes again, bat still in hand, and tell myself to sleep. Tomorrow, I'll laugh about this. I'm half asleep when I hear it, a soft scrape, like metal on concrete, right outside the van. My eyes snap open, heart pounding. It's probably nothing, just a stray cat or debris. But it's enough to keep me awake, staring into the dark, waiting for something to happen. Or nothing. I hope it's nothing. The scrape outside my van stops as suddenly as it started, leaving me clutching my bat, ears straining. I'm frozen in bed, heart hammering like I've sprinted a mile. It's probably nothing, I tell myself again, but my gut's screaming otherwise. I've had creepy nights before, like that time in Arizona when a raccoon knocked over my trash can, scaring me half to death. But this feels heavier, more disturbing. I ease out of bed, careful not to rock the van, and peek through the blackout curtain. The lot's pitch black now, the mill a jagged shadow against the sky. No movement, no light, just silence. I check my phone again, still no signal. Great. I'm cut off in the middle of nowhere, Indiana. I debate starting the engine and bolting, but that feels like overreacting. I've got limited gas, and the next station's miles away. Plus, I'm exhausted. Driving now's a recipe for a crash. I decide to stay put, but I'm not sleeping yet. I grab my flashlight, keeping it low, and check the van's locks again. Everything's secure, but my nerves are fried. I think about that gas station cashier's warning about weirdos. Was he messing with me? Or did he know something? Gary's got a rep for being rough, but serial killers? That's movie stuff. Still, the thought's scary as hell. I settle back, bat across my chest, and try to think logically. Maybe the scrape was a branch or some junk blowing around. The mill's old. It's probably full of loose metal. But then I hear it again, sharper, closer, like something dragging along the van's side. My breath catches, and I kill the flashlight. No way that's the wind. I'm parked in an open lot, no trees nearby. My mind races to that true crime podcast, the one about a killer stalking truckers in the Midwest. Disturbing details flood back. Victims found in remote lots, no witnesses. I shake it off. I'm not a trucker, and this is just my brain screwing with me. I crawl to the driver's seat, keeping low, and check the side mirrors. Nothing but darkness. I'm tempted to flash the headlights, see what's out there, but that'd give me away. Stealth camping's all about staying invisible, and I'm not breaking that rule now. I think about my buddy Theo again. He'd laugh, call me paranoid, but he's not here. I'm alone, and that's the van life deal, freedom, but no backup. I curse myself for not grabbing a cheap burner phone for emergencies. Stupid mistake, Elton. Real smart. The scraping stops, but now there's a faint tap tap tap, like fingers on glass. It's coming from the back window. My blood runs cold. I grip the bat tighter, picturing some creep out there, testing my defenses. I've read about this. Guys messing with campers, seeing who's an easy target. It's horrifying to think I might be one. I inch toward the back, holding my breath, and peek through a tiny gap in the curtain. Nothing. Just the empty lot and the mill's hulking shape. But the tapping felt deliberate, like someone's toying with me. I decide to move the van, just a bit, to another spot in the lot. Maybe it'll throw off whatever's out there. I slide into the driver's seat, keys shaking in my hand, and start the engine. The rumble feels too loud, like a beacon screaming. I'm here. I ease forward, circling the lot, eyes darting to every shadow. I park closer to the mill this time, hoping the structure blocks any prying eyes. Bad move, maybe, but I'm running on instinct now. I kill the engine and wait, listening. No taps, no scrapes, just my own ragged breathing. I'm wide awake now, adrenaline pumping. I grab my pepper spray from the glove box, tucking it into my pocket. I'm not going out there. Hell no, but I need to be ready. I think about the locals again, that guy in flannel at the gas station. Did he follow me? The thought's ridiculous, but Gary's small, and my van sticks out. I curse myself for not parking somewhere busier, like a truck stop. Another mistake. I'm racking them up tonight. The air feels thicker now, like the van's closing in on me. I check my phone again, praying for a signal. Still nothing. I'm cut off, and that's when it hits me. I didn't tell anyone where I was parking tonight. Not Theo, not my sister and Indy, nobody. If something happens, I'm screwed. The realization's scary, like I've walked into a trap I didn't see coming. I try to calm down, humming a dumb song to break the tension, but it's no use. The mill looms outside, and I swear it's watching me, waiting for me to slip up. Then I see it, a quick flash of light, not from the lot, but inside the mill. It's brief, like a phone screen flickering on and off. My stomach drops. Someone's out there, and they're close. Too close. I grip the bat, my knuckles white, and wonder if I've made the worst mistake of my life parking here. The flash in the mill's window is gone, but my heart's still pounding like a jackhammer. I'm crouched in the driver's seat, bat in one hand, pepper spray in the other, staring at the mill's dark silhouette. That light wasn't random. It felt intentional, like someone wanted me to see it. The horror of it sinks in. I'm not alone out here. I've parked in some sketchy spots before, like that desolate rest stop in Utah where a trucker gave me the creeps. But this is different. This is Gary, Indiana, and the vibe is straight up disturbing. I tell myself to breathe, to think, but my mind's spinning. Was that a phone? A flashlight? Or something worse? I slide back to the van's living area, keeping low, and check every window. The blackout curtains are my lifeline, hiding me from whatever's out there. But now I'm second-guessing everything. Did I lock the back door properly? I crawl over, tugging the handle. Yep, secure. Still, the silence feels wrong, like the calm before a storm. I think about those true crime stories, killers stalking lonely travelers. It's scary how real it feels now. I'm not just some guy in a van anymore. I'm a target. I shake my head, trying to laugh it off, but my throat's tight. Then I hear it, a low, deliberate knock on the van's side. Not a scrape, not a tap, but a solid thump-thump, like someone's testing the metal. My blood freezes. I grip the bat so hard my hands ache. It's not a cat, not the wind. Someone's out there, and they know I'm in here. The horror of it hits me like a punch. I'm trapped in my own home. I think about yelling, scaring them off, but that'd give away that I'm awake, aware. Instead, I stay still, barely breathing, listening for more. Nothing. Just that awful quiet again. I inch toward the front, peering through the windshield. The mill's windows are black voids, but I swear I see movement, a shadow shifting inside. My stomach twists. This isn't my imagination anymore. It's real, and it's terrifying. I think about that flannel guy from the gas station. Was he scoping me out? Or maybe it's someone else, someone who's been watching since I rolled into Gary. The thought's disturbing, like I've been marked. I fumble for my keys, ready to drive, but then I remember, the van's low on gas. I'd be lucky to make it 10 miles. Another knock, this time on the back door. I stifle a gasp, my heart slamming against my ribs. It's closer now, bolder. Whoever's out there isn't sneaking anymore. They're taunting me. I picture a serial killer, someone who's done this before, picking off nomads like me in forgotten places. I've read about cases like that, bodies found in ditches, no clues, no witnesses. The idea is so scary I almost dropped the bat. I force myself to focus, to think. I could call for help, but my phone's useless. I'm on my own. I crawl to the back, pepper spray ready, and listen. No more knocks, but now there's a faint rustle, like fabric brushing against the van. My mind races with horrifying possibilities. Someone circling, looking for a way in. I check the windows again, my hands shaking. The curtains are tight, no gaps, but I feel exposed, like eyes are boring into me through the metal. I think about my sister, Lila, back in Indy. She warned me about van life, said I was crazy for sleeping in random lots. I laughed it off then. Not now. A new sound, metal creaking, slow and deliberate, like someone's prying at the back door. My breath hitches. The lock's sturdy, but it won't hold forever. I'm not imagining this. Someone's trying to get in. The terror's real now, clawing at my chest. I think about mistakes I've made. Parking here, not telling anyone, ignoring the cashier's warning. I'm kicking myself, but there's no time for regret. I grab my flashlight, keeping it off, and move to the driver's seat. Maybe I can start the van, scare them off with the noise. As I reach for the keys, I hear a voice, low, muffled, coming from outside. It's not words I can make out, just a deep murmur, like someone talking to themselves. Or someone else. My skin crawls. The idea of multiple people out there is beyond disturbing. I freeze, straining to hear. The voice stops, replaced by footsteps. Heavy, deliberate, circling the van. I picture the mill, its dark corners hiding who knows what. I'm not just spooked anymore. I'm in a nightmare, and it's only getting worse. The footsteps pause near the driver's side. I hold my breath, bat raised, waiting for the next move. Then, a soft chuckle, barely audible but unmistakable. It's chilling, like whoever's out there is enjoying this. My mind screams to do something, drive, fight, anything, but I'm paralyzed, caught in the horror of knowing something's about to happen. And I'm not ready. The chuckle outside my van snaps me out of my freeze. My hands shake, but I jam the keys into the ignition, heart pounding like a drum. I'm Elton Marrow, stuck in this nightmare in Gary, Indiana, and I've got to move. The engine roars to life, shattering the silence, and I slam the gas, tires screeching as I peel out of the lot. The mill's dark shape blurs past, but I catch a glimpse in the side mirror, a figure, tall and shadowed, standing where my van was. The horror of it hits me. They were right there, inches away. I'm driving blind, low on gas, no phone signal, just pure adrenaline pushing me to escape this scary mess. The van rattles as I hit the uneven road, my bat sliding off the passenger seat. I'm aiming for the main highway, maybe a gas station, anywhere with people. Gary's streets are empty, streetlights flickering like they're mocking me. I think of that flannel guy from the gas station. Did he set me up? The thought's disturbing, but I can't dwell on it. Headlights catch a sign for I-90, and I gun it, praying Rusty holds out. My mind flashes to a news story about a guy who ran out of gas on a dark road, found dead later. I'm not going to be that guy. Not tonight. A thud hits the van's side, like something was thrown. I swerve, cursing, and check the mirrors. Nothing, but my gut screams I'm being followed. The terror's real now, choking me. I fumble for the pepper spray, keeping one hand on the wheel. The road's desolate. No cars, no lights, just the van's headlights cutting through the dark. I think about my sister, Lila, how she'd freak if she knew I was running from some creep. I should have listened to her, stayed in Indy. Stupid, Elton, so stupid. I spot a gas station up ahead, its neon sign flickering like a beacon. Relief floods me, but it's short-lived. As I slow down, headlights flare behind me. Another vehicle, closing fast. My heart sinks. This isn't random. They're chasing me. The horror of being hunted grips me, and I floor it again, blowing past the station. I can't stop now. They'd catch me. I think of those true crime shows, killers tailing victims on empty roads. It's happening to me, and it's terrifying. The van's gas light blinks on, a cruel reminder I'm screwed. I've got maybe 10 miles left, tops. The headlights behind me are closer now, high beams blinding in the rear view. I swerve onto a side street, hoping to lose them in Gary's maze of abandoned roads. The van groans, not built for this kind of chase. I'm sweating, hands slipping on the wheel. I think about my bat, my pepper spray, useless if they've got a gun. The thought's so disturbing, I almost gag. I need a plan, fast. I spot an alley, narrow and dark, and take a hard left, scraping the van's side. The pursuing lights miss the turn, speeding past, and I let out a shaky breath. I park in the shadows, killing the engine, and crouch low. My heart's hammering, every noise amplified. I wait, listening for those headlights to circle back. The silence is worse than the chase, like the calm before something horrifying. I think about Theo, how he'd say I'm an idiot for parking in Gary. He's not wrong. Minutes drag by, and I'm shaking, pepper spray clutched tight. I peek out, seeing nothing but empty streets. Did I lose them? I want to believe it, but my gut says otherwise. I start the van again, creeping out of the alley, aiming for the highway. Then I see it. A truck, parked across the street, lights off, but engine idling. My stomach drops. They're waiting. The scary reality hits. I'm not out of this yet. I ease forward, praying they don't see me. The truck's lights snap on, and it lurches toward me. I slam the gas, the van sputtering as I push it to its limit. The highway's close, but the gas gauge is kissing empty. I'm in a life-or-death race now. No backup, no help. The truck's gaining, its grill filling my mirrors like a monster. I think about my journal, all those Vanlife dreams scribbled down. They feel so far away now, buried under this nightmare. I swerve, dodging a pothole, and pray for a miracle. Then the van coughs, lurching as the engine stalls. I'm out of gas, stranded on a dark stretch of road. The truck slows behind me, its lights blinding. Panic claws at me as I grab the bat and pepper spray, ready to fight. The truck stops, and I hear a door creak open. Footsteps crunch closer, deliberate, unhurried. The horror of what's coming freezes me, but I'm not going down easy. I'm ready to swing, to run, to do anything to survive. The footsteps stop just outside my van, and I'm gripping the bat so hard my knuckles burn. I'm Elton Marrow, 29, from Indianapolis, and I'm about to face whatever's been stalking me in Gary, Indiana. The truck's lights flood the van, blinding me through the curtains. I'm trapped, no gas, no signal, no way out. The horror of it sinks in. This is it. I think about my family, how I never told them I loved them enough. A voice calls out, low and calm. Hey, you okay in there? It's familiar, but my brain's too fried to place it. I don't answer, just hold my breath, ready to spray or swing. The voice calls again, closer now, and I hear the van's handle jiggle. My heart's in my throat. I made a deadly mistake coming to Gary, thinking I could handle anything. Vanlife taught me to be tough, but this is beyond scary. It's a nightmare. I think about that flannel guy again, the cashier's warning, all the signs I ignored. The handle stops moving, and there's a pause, then a loud bang on the door. I yelp, dropping the pepper spray. It rolls under the seat, out of reach. Perfect. Another screw up. I'm scrambling for the spray when the voice laughs, chilling and familiar. Elton, come on out, man. My blood freezes. How do they know my name? I never told anyone here. The terror's suffocating now, like the air's turned to poison. I think back to the gas station, the flannel guy's stare. Was he more than a creep? My mind flashes to a disturbing news story about a killer who tracked victims through social media. I posted about Gary on X yesterday, tagged my location. Stupid mistake. The van rocks as someone slams into it, hard. I grab the bat, my only defense now, and crouch by the door. The voice shifts, not calm anymore, angry, demanding. Open the damn door, Elton. I'm shaking, piecing it together. The plot twist hits like a gut punch. It's Theo, my best friend from Indy, the one I've trusted for years. He knew I was here, knew my van, my habits. The flannel guy wasn't random. It was him, following me. The horror of betrayal cuts deeper than any knife. I scream, Theo, what the hell? Hoping to stall him. He laughs again, cold and unhinged. You made it too easy, man. Always alone, always moving. My mind reels. Theo, the guy I shared beers with, planned this? I think of his weird texts lately, asking where I was parked, joking about catching up. I thought he was being friendly. Now it's clear. He's the serial killer, and I'm his next mark. The realization's so disturbing I can't breathe. I swing open the door, bat raised, hoping to catch him off guard. He's there, taller than I remember, a knife glinting in his hand. His face is wrong, twisted, not the Theo I knew. I swing, but he's fast, dodging and grabbing my arm. The bat clatters to the ground, and I'm screaming, fighting, but he's stronger. The scary truth hits. I trusted him, let him in my life, and now I'm paying for it. I kick, clawing for freedom, but the knife's at my throat now. He drags me toward the truck, and I'm thrashing, yelling for help that won't come. The mill looms in the distance, a silent witness to this tragedy. I think about Lila, how she'll never know what happened. My biggest mistake wasn't parking in Gary, it was trusting Theo. The knife presses harder, and I feel blood trickle. The horror's overwhelming, but I'm still fighting, desperate for one last chance. Theo mutters something about finishing the collection, and I realize I'm not his first. It's sickening, cruel. We're at the truck now, and he shoves me inside, the knife never leaving my neck. I'm pleading, begging, but his eyes are empty, like he's gone. I think of all the Vanlife nights I felt free, alive. Now they're gone, stolen by someone I called a friend. The truck's door slams, and we're moving, the mill fading behind us. I'm out of moves, out of hope. The last thing I see is Theo's grin, a predator's smile, as he hums a tune we used to sing together. It's the cruelest twist of all. My vision blurs, the blood loss kicking in. I'm fading, the world slipping away. My Vanlife dream, my freedom, ends here, in a truck with a monster I thought I knew. The tragedy isn't just my death, it's the betrayal, the trust one gave so freely. As the darkness closes in, I whisper Lila's name, hoping somehow she'll know I fought. Then, nothing. The tires of my Sprinter van crunch on gravel as I pull into an empty lot off Broadway in Gary, Indiana. I'm Verna Hollis, 34 years old, from Fort Wayne, Indiana, chasing the Vanlife dream for the past year. This spot's near a shuttered warehouse, all cracked concrete and boarded windows, the kind of place that feels like it's hiding secrets. I'm just passing through, heading to a craft fair in Chicago to sell my handmade jewelry. My van, Starlight, is my sanctuary, decked out with fairy lights, a fold-out bed, and a tiny stove. The sun's gone, leaving a gray haze over Gary, and I'm wiped from the drive. I lock the doors, pull the curtains, and settle in with a cup of tea. Gary's got a rough edge, everyone knows that. I saw the boarded-up houses driving in, the kind you'd see in a horror movie. But I'm used to parking in odd spots, empty fields, quiet streets, even a cemetery once by mistake. I've got my routine: park, eat, sleep, move on. Starlight's got solar power and a lockbox for my cash, so I feel safe enough. Still, I keep a knife under my pillow, just in case. Fort Wayne's not exactly paradise, but Gary feels heavier, more disturbing. I sip my tea, trying to ignore the warehouse's looming shadow outside. I dig out my sketchbook, doodling new jewelry designs to calm my nerves. Vanlife's been my escape since my divorce, a way to leave behind the mess of my old life. I love the freedom, but nights like this, alone in a strange city, can feel isolating. I think about calling my friend Marla back in Fort Wayne, but my phone's at 10% and the signal's spotty. Typical. I glance outside through a curtain gap, checking the lot. It's empty, just litter and weeds. The warehouse stares back, its windows like dead eyes. Creepy, but I'm fine. I heat up some soup on my stove, the smell comforting in the chilly van. I'm scrolling X on my dying phone, looking for local tips, when I see posts about Gary's crime rate. Break-ins, muggings, worse. It's unsettling, but I'm careful. My van's nondescript, no flashy stickers, and I parked away from streetlights to stay stealthy. I think about a scary night in Ohio, when some kids banged on my van for laughs. Annoying, but harmless. This feels different, though, like the air's too still. The warehouse gives me the creeps, so I double-check my locks. I've got a small stash of cash from last week's fair, hidden in the lockbox under the floor. If someone tried to rob me, they'd have a hard time finding it. Still, the thought of someone out there, watching, is disturbing. I laugh at myself. Too many late-night podcasts about killers and thieves. I plug in my phone to charge, hoping for a signal by morning. The lot's quiet, just the faint hum of distant traffic. I crawl into bed, knife within reach, and pull the blanket tight. The fairy lights cast a soft glow, making Starlight feel cozy despite the grim surroundings. I think about my ex, how he'd hate that I'm out here living free while he's stuck in Fort Wayne. Good. I smile, but it fades when I hear a faint clank outside. like metal on metal. Probably nothing, just the warehouse settling. I've heard worse, like that windstorm in Kentucky that shook the van all night. I brush it off. Still, I sit up, listening. The clank doesn't repeat, but now there's a low hum, like an engine idling far off. My heart picks up, but I tell myself it's just a car passing by. Gary's not a ghost town, people drive through. I lie back, staring at the ceiling, the knife's weight under my pillow reassuring. I think about Marla's warning before I left. Don't park in creepy places, Verna. I shrugged it off then, but now it's nagging me. Maybe I should have picked a truck stop. The hum fades, and I relax a bit, convincing myself it's nothing. I turn on my little fan for white noise, trying to drown out my overactive imagination. The warehouse looms in my mind, though its dark bulk unsettling. I've got a long drive tomorrow, and I need sleep. I close my eyes, focusing on the fan's hum, but my gut's twitching like it knows something I don't. I tell myself I'm safe, that starlight's my fortress. But the night feels alive, watching. I'm drifting off when I hear it. A soft thump, like something bumped the van. My eyes snap open, pulse racing. It's probably a stray animal, but my hand's already on the knife. I lie still, listening, the silence now heavy, scary. The warehouse, the lot, Gary itself, they all feel wrong. I'm not sure what's out there, but I'm not sleeping now. The thump against my van jolts me upright, my hand tight on the knife under my pillow. I'm Verna Hollis, parked in this creepy lot in Gary, Indiana, and my heart's racing like I've run a marathon. The sound's gone, but the silence feels worse, heavy and disturbing. I've had bumps before, raccoons, branches, even a drunk guy stumbling into my van in Missouri, but this feels off. I ease out of bed, keeping low, and peek through the curtain. The warehouse looms across the lot, its boarded windows like a face that's seen too much. Nothing moves, but my gut's screaming I'm not alone. I check my phone, still no signal, battery at 8%. Perfect. I'm cut off, and starlight's my only shield. I think about starting the van and bolting, but it's 2 a.m., and I don't know Gary's streets. Plus, my gas is half full, and the nearest station's a gamble in this town. I decide to stay put, knife in hand, and wait it out. I'm no rookie. I've handled sketchy nights before, like that time in Iowa when a storm knocked out my solar power. But this vibe is scary, like something's watching from the shadows. A faint rustle comes from outside, like leaves crunching underfoot. My breath catches. It's not the wind, there's barely a breeze. I grip the knife tighter, picturing some creep circling my van. I think about those ex-posts warning about Gary's crime, stories of muggings and worse. Disturbing stuff, but I brushed it off earlier. Now it's real. I crawl to the driver's seat, checking the mirrors. The lot's dark, but I swear I see a shadow shift near the warehouse, quick and human-shaped. My stomach twists. I debate flashing my headlights to scare off whatever's out there, but that'd scream, "Hey, I'm awake." Stealth's my best bet in van life, so I stay dark. I think about Marla, how she'd lose it if I told her about this. She's always saying I'm too trusting, parking in places like this. Maybe she's right. I curse myself for not picking a Walmart lot instead. Rookie mistake, Verna. I grab my flashlight but keep it off, not wanting to give myself away. The rustle comes again, closer, near the van's back door. My pulse spikes, and I'm frozen listening. It's deliberate, like someone's testing me. I think about a scary podcast I heard about a killer targeting campers, luring them out with noises. My mind's racing. Could that be happening? I check the locks again, my hands shaky. The door's secure, but the sounds got me rattled. I'm kicking myself for posting about Gary on X, even vaguely. Did someone see it, track me here? I decide to move the van to another corner of the lot, hoping to throw off whoever's out there. I slide into the driver's seat, keys jingling, and start the engine. The rumble feels too loud, like a spotlight on me. I ease forward, circling the warehouse, and park in a darker spot near some overgrown bushes. I kill the engine and wait, knife clutched tight. The silence returns, but it's not comforting. It's horrifying, like the calm before a jump scare. I'm scanning the lot when I notice my side mirror's angled wrong, like someone touched it. My blood runs cold. I didn't bump anything driving over here. The thought's disturbing. Someone was close enough to mess with my van. I think about the guy at the gas station earlier, a wiry dude with a hoodie who stared at me while I filled up. Was he scoping me out? I'm second-guessing every choice now, my heart pounding like a drum. No more noises, but I'm too wired to relax. I tuck the knife into my waistband and check my lockbox under the floor. My cash is still there, safe. But money's not what I'm worried about now. The warehouse feels alive, like it's hiding something sinister. I try my phone again, praying for a signal. Nothing. I'm alone, and that's the scary part of van life. No one knows where I am. Not Marla, not my mom, nobody. I made that choice, but now it feels like a trap. Then I see it, a faint glow, not in the lot, but inside the warehouse, like a flashlight sweeping across a window. My heart stops. Someone's in there, and they're close. Too close. I grip the knife, my mind screaming to run, but where? The glow flickers again, and I know this isn't random. Something's coming, and I'm not ready. The glow in the warehouse window flickers again, and I'm frozen in my van, knife clutched like a lifeline. I'm Verna Hollis, stuck in this creepy lot in Gary, Indiana, and my heart's pounding so hard I can barely think. That light's no accident. Someone's in there, moving, watching. The horror of it sinks in. I'm not just paranoid. Something's really out there. I've had spooky nights before, like that time in Nebraska when coyotes circled my van. But this is different. This feels personal, scary, like I've stumbled into someone's game. I hold my breath, staring at the warehouse's dark bulk. I slide to the van's back, checking the curtains for gaps. They're tight, but I feel exposed, like eyes are burning through the metal. The glow's gone now, but that makes it worse. Where are they? I think about those ex-posts about Gary, the warnings about bad areas. Disturbing doesn't even cover it. I'm kicking myself for parking here, for ignoring Marla's advice. My phone's still dead. No signal, no help. I'm alone, and the silence is deafening, like it's hiding something awful. A sharp bang hits the van's side, and I stifle a scream. It's not a branch, not an animal. Too deliberate, too heavy. My pulse races, the knife shaking in my hand. Whoever's out there knows I'm here, and they're not sneaking anymore. The terror's real now, clawing at my chest. I think about a podcast I heard about a killer stalking rest stops, picking off travelers. Is that what's happening? I crawl to the driver's seat, peering out. The lot's dark, but I swear I see a figure near the warehouse, low and moving fast. I grab my flashlight, keeping it off, and debate my options. Stay put? Drive? The gas is low, but sitting here feels like waiting to die. I think about that hoodie guy from the gas station, his weird stare. Was he part of this? The thought's horrifying, like I've been marked since I rolled into Gary. Another bang, this time near the back door, and I bite my lip to stay quiet. It's like they're circling, testing me. My mind screams serial killer, and I can't shake it. A low scrape runs along the van's side, slow and intentional, like a blade on metal. My stomach drops. This isn't a prank. Someone's trying to get in. I check the locks again, my hands sweaty, and pray starlight holds. I think about my lockbox, the cash inside. Could that be what they want? But deep down, I know it's not about money. The scraping stops, and I hear footsteps, heavy and close. The fear's so thick I can barely breathe. I'm trapped in my own home. Then, a voice, gruff, male, right outside. Come out, sweetheart. I just want to talk. My blood freezes. It's calm, too calm, like he's done this before. The horror of it hits me. This guy's not random. I think about those true crime stories, killers who lure victims with fake kindness. I'm not falling for it, but what do? I grip the knife, my only defense, and crouch low, heart hammering. The voice laughs, low and chilling, and I know I'm in deep. Footsteps circle the van again, slower now, like he's savoring this. I'm shaking, picturing a faceless creep with a knife of his own. The warehouse looms in my mind, its dark corners hiding who knows what. I made a mistake parking here, thinking I could handle anything. Vanlife's taught me to be tough, but this is beyond scary. It's a nightmare. I check the mirrors, catching a glimpse of movement, a shadow slipping behind the van. He's close, too close. The voice comes again, closer to the driver's side. I see you moving in there. My heart stops. How does he know? The curtains are shut, the van's dark. The realization's disturbing. He's been watching longer than I thought, maybe since I parked. I think about my ex-post, how I mentioned Gary. Did he find me that way? I'm cursing myself for every dumb choice, every ignored warning. The footsteps pause, and I hear a click, like a lighter or a lockpick. He's not giving up. I'm paralyzed, knife raised, waiting for the next move. The air feels electric, charged with terror. I think about Marla, how she'd beg me to run, But where? The van's my only shield, and it's failing me. A soft tap 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 on the back door sends my pulse into overdrive. It's deliberate, taunting, like he's playing with me before the kill. I know now, something's very wrong, and I'm not getting out of this easily. The tap 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 on my van's back door stops, but my heart's still racing, knife gripped tight in my sweaty hand. I'm Verna Hollis, trapped in this lot in Gary, Indiana, and I know that guy outside isn't here to chat. His creepy voice echoes in my head, and I'm done waiting. I slide into the driver's seat, start Starlight's engine, and peel out, tires screeching. The warehouse blurs past, but in the mirror, I see a figure bolt from the shadows, chasing me. The horror of it hits. He's fast, too fast. I'm flooring it, praying my half tank of gas gets me to the highway, away from this scary nightmare. Gary's streets are a maze of dark, empty roads, and my headlights barely cut through the gloom. I'm aiming for I-90, hoping for a gas station or cops, anything. The guy's voice, that sickening sweetheart, replays in my mind, chillingly disturbing. I think of a news story about a woman who escaped a kidnapper by driving until her car died. I'm not her yet, but I'm close. My hands shake on the wheel, the knife tucked beside me. I made a mistake parking in that lot, and now I'm paying for it. A flash of headlights appears behind me, closing in fast. My stomach drops. He's got a car. I swerve onto a side street, dodging potholes, but the lights stay on me. The terror is suffocating, like I'm in a horror movie with no script. I think of Marla, how she'd scream at me to keep going. I'm trying, but Starlight's engine is groaning, not built for this chase. The guy from the gas station, that hoodie creep, pops into my head. Is it him? The thought's scary, but I can't stop to think. I spot a 24-hour diner up ahead, its neon sign a lifeline. I gun it, hoping for people, safety. But as I pull into the lot, the car behind me slows, then cuts its lights. My heart sinks. They're not giving up, just playing smarter. I park close to the diner's entrance, knife in my waistband, and debate running inside. But what if he follows? The fear's paralyzing, and I'm kicking myself for not charging my phone earlier. No signal, no help, just me and this disturbing game. I grab my flashlight, keeping it off, and scan the lot. The other car's parked at the edge, dark and still. I can't see him, but I feel his eyes on me. It's horrifying, like being prey. I think about a time I outran a storm in Ohio, driving through the night to safety. This is worse, no end in sight. I start the van again, deciding to head for the highway, but the gas gauge is dangerously low. I'm running out of options, and he knows it. The diner's lights flicker, and I see a shadow move near the other car. My pulse spikes. He's coming. I slam the gas, tearing out of the lot, the van rattling. The highway's close, but his headlights flare behind me again, closer now. I'm in a life-or-death chase, no backup, just me and Starlight. I swerve through Gary's streets, dodging abandoned cars, my mind racing. I should have told Marla where I was. Stupid, Verna, so stupid. The van lurches, the gas needle kissing empty. I curse, scanning for anywhere to hide. An industrial park looms ahead, all dark warehouses and chain-link fences. I turn in, hoping to lose him in the maze. The headlights follow, relentless. The terror's overwhelming, like I'm running from death itself. I think of my jewelry, my Vanlife dreams, all meaningless now. I park behind a dumpster, killing the engine, and crouch low, knife ready, praying he passes by. Minutes tick by, and I hear an engine rumble nearby, then stop. My heart's in my throat. He's out there, hunting me. I think about screaming, but who'd hear? The industrial park's deserted, just like the lot. I made another mistake coming here, thinking I could hide. Footsteps crunch outside, slow and deliberate, getting closer. The horror of being found grips me, and I'm shaking, ready to fight or run, anything to survive. I peek through the curtain, seeing a figure approaching, tall and hooded, a glint of metal in his hand. My blood runs cold. He's not just a thief. This is a killer, and I'm his target. I grip the knife, my only hope, and wait, every second agonizing. The footsteps stop, and I hear his breath, close, too close. I'm not safe anymore, and I know it. The chase isn't over, it's just beginning. The figure's shadow looms outside my van, and I'm crouched in the dark, knife trembling in my hand. I'm Verna Hollis, 34, from Fort Wayne, and this industrial park in Gary, Indiana, is where my van life dream dies. The guy's breathing is loud, like he's sniffing me out. The horror of it chokes me. I'm prey, and he's the predator. I think of Marla, how she'll never know what happened. My biggest mistake was trusting I could handle Gary, ignoring every warning. A soft knock on the van's side makes me jump, and his voice hisses, "I know you're in there." It's sickening, cruel. I'm frozen, debating whether to fight or stay hidden. The knife's sharp, but he's got something worse. I saw the glint. I think of a scary story about a woman who fought off a kidnapper with a tire iron, but I'm not that brave. Another knock, harder, and the van rocks. My heart's pounding so loud I'm sure he hears it. I curse myself for that ex-post, for parking in that lot, for every choice that led here. The disturbing truth hits. He's been tracking me, maybe for hours. A loud bang shakes the van, like he's slamming something heavy against it. I stifle a scream, clutching the knife. The lockbox under the floor flashes in my mind. My cash, my jewelry. Is that what he wants? No, this feels personal, like he enjoys the hunt. The terror's suffocating, and I'm kicking myself for not running to the diner when I had the chance. I hear metal scrape, like he's prying at the door. My mind races to a podcast about a serial killer who targeted nomads, leaving no trace. Is this him? The scraping stops, and I hear a chuckle, low and vile. "You can't hide forever," he says, and my blood runs cold. I'm trapped, no gas, no way out. I think about my ex, how he called me reckless for living in a van. He was right, and it's a bitter pill. I decide to make a move, open the door, swing the knife, anything to fight back. But as I reach for the handle, the van's side window shatters, glass spraying everywhere. I scream, scrambling back, the knife slipping in my sweaty grip. A hand reaches through the broken window, groping for the lock. I swing the knife, slicing air, but he's fast, pulling back. I'm shaking, glass cutting my knees as I crawl to the driver's seat. The horror of being so close to him is unbearable. I try the ignition, praying for a miracle, but Starlight's dead, out of gas, out of hope. His shadow moves to the front, and I see his face for the first time. Hooded, eyes gleaming with sick excitement. It's the gas station guy, and he's no random creep. He bangs on the windshield, cracking it, and I'm screaming, swinging the knife wildly. "Get away," I yell, but he just laughs, like this is fun. I think of my mom, how she'll hear about this on the news, another Vanlife tragedy. My mistake was thinking I was safe, that Starlight was enough. The windshield buckles, and he's climbing through, knife in hand, bigger than mine. I slash at him, catching his arm, but he doesn't stop, blood dripping as he grabs my wrist. Pain shoots through my arm as he twists it, the knife clattering to the floor. I'm kicking, screaming, but he's stronger, dragging me toward the broken window. The terror's blinding, and I'm fighting with everything I've got, but it's not enough. I think of my jewelry, my sketches, all the dreams I poured into Vanlife. They're nothing now, just a cruel memory. His knife presses against my side, and I feel the sting, warm blood soaking my shirt. He pulls me out of the van, and I'm thrashing, but my strength's fading. The industrial park is silent, no one to hear my screams. The tragedy isn't just dying, it's knowing I walked into this trap, blind to the danger. He drags me toward his car, muttering about another one for the collection. It's sickening, proof I'm not his first. My vision blurs, the pain overwhelming, and I know I'm done. I whisper Marla's name, a final apology, as the darkness takes me. The last thing I hear is his laugh, echoing in the empty lot, as Gary's shadows swallow me whole. My Vanlife adventure, my freedom, ends in blood and betrayal, another victim of a killer who thrives in this forgotten city. The warehouse watches, silent, as my story becomes another ghost in its walls. My old Chevy van rumbles to a stop in a rundown lot off 5th Avenue in Gary, Indiana, the engine coughing like it's as tired as I am. I'm Gideon Platt, 41 years old, from Evansville, Indiana, living the Vanlife grind for 3 years now. This spot's near a boarded-up factory, all graffiti and broken glass, the kind of place that screams trouble. I'm just here for the night, heading to a construction job in Chicago. My van, Old Blue, is my home, bunk bed, propane stove, and a cooler full of sandwiches. The sky's a dull gray, and I'm beat, so I lock the doors, pull the shades, and crack open a soda. Gary's got a bad rep, and I feel it in the air, heavy and unsettling. I've parked in rough spots before, truck stops, back roads, even a desert in Nevada, but this feels different, more disturbing. I'm cautious, always have been. Old Blue's got reinforced locks and a tire iron under the seat for emergencies. I left Evansville to escape a dead-end job and bad memories, and Vanlife's been my freedom. But tonight, the factory shadow feels like it's watching me, giving me the creeps. I dig out my radio, tuning to a local station for some noise to cut the silence. The lot's empty, just litter and weeds, but I can't shake the feeling I'm not alone. I think about my brother, Cal, back in Evansville, how he called me crazy for living like this. Maybe he's right, but I'm stubborn. My phone's got a weak signal, so I text Cal I'm in Gary, just in case. The factory looms outside, its rusted pipes like bones in a horror movie. I laugh it off, but my skin prickles. I heat up a sandwich on my stove, the smell filling the van. I'm scrolling X on my phone, checking for news on Gary, and see posts about robberies and disappearances. Scary stuff, but I'm not new to this. I parked away from streetlights, keeping Old Blue low-key with its faded paint. I think about a night in Kentucky when some teens messed with my van, throwing rocks for kicks. Annoying, but nothing like the vibe here. This feels heavier, wrong. The factory's silhouette catches my eye through a shade gap, and I double-check the locks. I've got a small safe bolted under the floor with my cash from odd jobs. If someone tries to rob me, they'll have to work for it. Still, the thought of trouble in Gary is disturbing. I sip my soda, trying to relax, but my gut's twitching. I've listened to too many true crime podcasts about killers in small towns. Old Blue's my fortress, though, and I'm fine, right? I climb into my bunk, tire iron close by, and pull the blanket up. The radio's static now, so I switch it off, leaving just the hum of the night. I think about my old life in Evansville, the factory job I hated. Vanlife's better, even with nights like this. The lot's too quiet, though, like it's holding its breath. I tell myself it's just nerves, like that time in Missouri when a storm rattled me all night. I close my eyes, willing sleep to come. A faint clatter breaks the silence, like glass hitting pavement. My eyes snap open, heart kicking up. Probably a bottle rolling in the wind, but I'm not sure. I sit up, listening hard. Nothing follows, but the quiet feels worse, almost scary. I think about Cal's warning. Gary's no place to park, Gideon. I brushed it off, but now I'm second-guessing. I grab the tire iron, just in case, and check the shades. The factory's still there, dark and looming. I'm settling back when I hear another sound. A low, steady scrape, like something dragging across the lot. My pulse jumps. It's not the wind, it's too rhythmic. I think about those X-posts, the ones about people vanishing in Gary. Disturbing doesn't cover it. I'm tempted to peek outside, but that's a bad idea. I've got my tire iron, my locks, and a plan, leave at dawn. I tell myself I'm safe, but my gut disagrees. The scraping stops, and I'm left staring into the dark, tire iron heavy in my hand. The factory feels closer somehow, like it's leaning in. I try to laugh, call myself paranoid, but it's no use. Something's off, and I can't shake it. I lie back, eyes wide, listening for the next sound. The night's alive, and I'm starting to think I've parked in the wrong place. The scraping sound outside my van fades, but I'm wide awake, tire iron gripped tight. I'm Gideon Platt, parked in this sketchy lot in Gary, Indiana, and my heart's thumping like a bass drum. That wasn't just debris. It felt deliberate, like someone's out there. I've had weird nights before, like when a fox screamed outside my van in Tennessee, scaring me silly, but this is different. The factory's shadow feels alive, disturbing in a way I can't shake. I check my phone. Signal's gone now, of course. I'm cut off, and Old Blue's my only defense. I debate starting the van and getting out of here, but it's 3 a.m., and I'm low on gas. The nearest station's miles away, and Gary's streets look like a maze from hell. I decide to stay put, tire iron ready, and wait for dawn. I'm no stranger to rough spots, but this place has a horror movie vibe that's hard to ignore. I think about Cal, how he'd chew me out for parking here. He's not wrong, but I'm stubborn. I crawl to the front, checking the mirrors for movement. Nothing, just darkness. A faint thud hits the van's side, and I freeze, my breath catching. It's not loud, but it's close, too close. My mind races to those X-posts about disappearances in Gary, scary stuff I dismissed earlier. Now it's real. I inch to the back, peeking through a shade gap. The lot's empty, but the factory's windows seem to stare back, like they're hiding something. I'm kicking myself for not picking a truck stop. Dumb move, Gideon. The tire iron feels heavy, reassuring, but not enough. I check the locks again, my hands shaky. Everything's secure, but that thud's got me rattled. I think about a night in Arkansas when some drunk guy pounded on my van, yelling nonsense. I scared him off with a flashlight, but this feels worse, more intentional. The air's thick, like the night's holding a secret. I grab my flashlight, keeping it off for now. Stealth's my game in van life, and I'm not breaking it, even if my gut's screaming to run. Another sound, a low, rhythmic tapping, like fingers on metal, near the back door. My pulse spikes. That's no animal. Someone's out there, testing me. The horror of it sinks in. I'm being watched, maybe hunted. I think about those true crime podcasts, killers stalking lone travelers in places like this. Disturbing doesn't cover it. I'm tempted to yell, scare them off, but that'd give me away. Instead, I stay low, tire iron clutched like a lifeline, listening. I decide to move the van, just a bit, to throw off whoever's out there. I slide into the driver's seat, keys trembling, and start Old Blue. The engine's loud, too loud, but I ease forward, circling the lot to a spot behind some rusted barrels. I kill the engine and wait, heart pounding. The tapping's gone, but the silence is worse, like a trap waiting to snap. I think about my text to Cal. Did it even send? If something happens, no one knows I'm here. The factory looms closer now, its bulk swallowing the moonlight. I'm second-guessing every choice. Parking here, not filling the tank, ignoring Cal's warnings. My phone's useless, battery at 15%. I curse myself for posting about Gary on X, even if it was just a vague check-in. Did someone see it? The thought's scary, like I've painted a target on my back. I grip the tire iron, ready for anything, but the quiet's eating at me. No more taps, but I'm too wired to relax. I check the safe under the floor. My cash is still there, but money's not what I'm worried about. The factory feels like it's breathing, hiding something sinister. I think about that guy at the gas station earlier, a skinny dude with a cap pulled low, staring at my van. Was he scoping me? The memory's disturbing, and I'm regretting every second I stayed in this lot. Then I see it, a quick flash of light, not in the lot, but inside the factory, like a match flaring. My stomach drops. Someone's in there, close, and they're not hiding anymore. The light flickers again, moving across a window, and I know this isn't random. It's deliberate, terrifying, like a signal meant for me. I grip the tire iron tighter, my mind screaming to move, but I'm frozen, caught in the horror of what's coming next. The match flare in the factory window vanishes, but my heart's pounding like a hammer in my chest. I'm Gideon Platt, stuck in this grim lot in Gary, Indiana, tire iron in hand, and I know someone's out there. That light wasn't random. It felt like a taunt, something straight out of a horror movie. I've had creepy nights before, like when a coyote stared through my window in Arizona, but this is different. This is deliberate, scary, like I've wandered into a trap. I'm frozen in Old Blue, staring at the factory's dark shape, waiting for the next move. I check the shades, making sure no light's leaking out. The van's my shield, but it feels flimsy now, like paper against whatever's lurking. The silence is disturbing, heavy, like the air's charged with bad intent. I think about those ex-posts about Gary, the disappearances, the warnings I ignored. My phone's still useless, no signal, low battery. I'm cut off, and the realization's terrifying. I grip the tire iron, my knuckles white, listening for anything. A sharp knock on the van's back door makes me jump, the tire iron nearly slipping. It's not a stray sound, too firm, too human. My blood runs cold. Someone's right there, and they know I'm inside. The horror of it hits me. I'm not imagining this. I think about a podcast I heard about a killer targeting campers, using noises to lure them out. This feels like that, only worse. I stay still, barely breathing, praying they'll move on. But another knock comes, slower, like they're enjoying my fear. I crawl to the driver's seat, peering through the windshield. The factory's windows are black, but I swear I see a shadow move inside, quick and low. My stomach twists. This isn't just one guy. The thought's scary as hell, like I'm up against a pack. I think about that gas station dude, his cap hiding his eyes. Was he part of this? The memory's disturbing, and I'm cursing myself for parking here, for thinking I could handle Gary. A low laugh cuts through the silence, rough and close, right outside the van. My heart stops. "You in there, buddy?" A voice calls, gravelly and calm, like he's done this before. The terror's choking me now, real and raw. I grip the tire iron, picturing a serial killer, someone who's hunted others in lots like this. I've read about cases, bodies found in ditches, no clues. That could be me, and it's horrifying. I want to scream, but that'd give me away. The laugh comes again, followed by a scrape, like a blade on the van's side. My skin crawls. They're not just taunting, they're trying to get in. I check the locks, my hands shaking, and pray Old Blue holds. The factory looms in my mind, its dark corners hiding who knows what. I think about Cal, how he'd tell me to run. But where? I'm trapped, and the realization's disturbing. The scrape stops, but footsteps crunch around the van, circling slow. The voice speaks again, closer to the driver's side. "Come on out, man. Make it easy." My blood freezes. He's toying with me, like a cat with a mouse. The horror of being hunted like this is overwhelming. I think about my mistake, parking in this lot, not telling Cal exactly where I'd be. Now I'm alone, no backup, just a tire iron against a killer. Footsteps pause by the back door, and I hear a metallic click, like a tool on the lock. I'm sweating, my mind racing. The click comes again, deliberate, like he's picking the lock. The fear's paralyzing, but I force myself to move, crouching by the door with the tire iron raised. I think about my brother, how he'll never know what happened. The van feels like a coffin now, and I'm kicking myself for every dumb choice. The clicking stops, and there's a pause, then a low hum, like someone's humming a tune. It's sickening, creepy, and way too close. The humming shifts to a whistle, sharp and eerie, right outside the driver's window. My heart's in my throat. I know now, this isn't random. Someone's been watching, maybe since I pulled into Gary. The thought's terrifying, like I've been marked from the start. The whistling stops, and I hear a soft thump, like something's leaning against the van. I'm trapped in a nightmare, and it's only getting worse. Something's very wrong, and I'm not ready for what's next. The whistle outside my van stops, but the thump against the side lingers in my bones. I'm Gideon Platt, trapped in this lot in Gary, Indiana, tire iron gripped like it's my last hope. That voice, that creepy "make it easy," echoes in my head, and I'm done sitting still. I scramble to the driver's seat, start Old Blue, and hit the gas, tires screaming. The factory blurs past, but in the mirror, I see a figure sprint from the shadows, chasing me. The horror of it slams me. He's not giving up. I'm racing for the highway, low on gas, praying I make it out of this scary mess. Gary's streets are dark, empty, streetlights flickering like they're laughing at me. I'm aiming for I-80, hoping for a gas station, cops, anything. The guy's voice, so calm and cruel, replays in my mind, disturbingly clear. I think of a news story about a trucker who outran a stalker by sheer luck. I need that luck now. My hands shake on the wheel, tire iron wedged beside me. Parking in that lot was a dumb move, and I'm paying for it. The factory's shadow fades, but the fear stuck with me. Headlights flare behind me, bright and closing fast. My gut twists, he's got a car. I swerve onto a side road, dodging debris, but the lights stay glued to me. The terror's choking, like I'm trapped in a nightmare with no end. I think of Cal, how he'd yell at me to keep going. I'm trying, but Old Blue's rattling, not built for this. The gas station dude with the cap pops into my head. Was he the one? The thought's scary, but I can't stop to figure it out. I spot a truck stop ahead, its neon sign glowing like salvation. I gun it, hoping for people, safety. But as I pull in, the car behind me slows, then cuts its lights. My heart sinks. They're smart, waiting me out. The horror of being hunted like this is unbearable. I park near the stop's entrance, tire iron in hand, debating a sprint inside. But what if he's watching? My phone's dead, no signal, no help. I'm alone, and it's terrifying. I scan the lot, gripping the tire iron. The other car's parked at the edge, dark and still, like a predator. I think about a time I outran a storm in Oklahoma, driving through the night to safety. This is worse, no escape in sight. I start the van again, deciding to bolt for the highway, but the gas gauge is screaming low. The guy's out there, waiting, and I'm running out of moves. The air feels thick, charged with something disturbing. The truck stop's lights flicker, and I see a shadow move near the other car. My pulse spikes, he's coming. I slam the gas, peeling out, the van groaning. The highway's close, but his headlights flare behind me, closer now. I'm in a life or death race. No backup, just old Blue and me. I swerve through Gary's back roads, dodging potholes, my mind racing. I should have told Cal exactly where I was. Dumb, Gideon, so dumb. The van sputters, gas needle flatlining. I curse, scanning for a hiding spot. An old rail yard looms ahead, all rusted tracks and abandoned cars. I veer in, hoping to lose him in the maze. The headlights follow, relentless. The terror is crushing, like death's breathing down my neck. I think of my van life days, the open road, all gone now. I park behind a wrecked train car, killing the engine, and crouch low, tire iron ready, praying he passes. Minutes drag, and I hear an engine rumble nearby, then stop. My heart's in my throat, he's close. Footsteps crunch, slow and deliberate, getting nearer. The horror of being found grips me, and I'm shaking, ready to fight. I think about yelling, but who'd hear in this deserted yard? I made a mistake coming here, thinking I could hide. The footsteps pause, and I hear a low chuckle, chilling and close. I peek through the shade, seeing a figure approaching, cap low, something glinting in his hand. My blood freezes. He's not just a thief, he's a killer. I grip the tire iron, my only shot, and wait, every second torture. The footsteps stop, and I hear his breath, right outside. I'm not safe, and I know it. The chase isn't over. It's tightening around me like a noose. The figure's breath is right outside my van, and I'm crouched in the dark, tire iron heavy in my hands. I'm Gideon Platt, 41, from Evansville, and this rail yard in Gary, Indiana, is where it all ends. The chuckle comes again, low and sick, like he's savoring this. The horror's suffocating. I'm prey, and he's the hunter. I think of Cal, how he'll never know what happened. My biggest mistake was parking in that lot, thinking I was tough enough for Gary. A soft knock on the van's side makes me flinch, and his voice growls, "Time's up, buddy." It's cruel, final. I'm frozen, tire iron raised, debating my move. Fight, hide. The weapon in his hand, probably a knife, flashes in my mind. I think of a scary story about a camper who fought off an attacker, but I'm no hero. Another knock, harder, rocks the van. My heart's pounding, and I'm cursing every choice. Ignoring Cal, not filling the tank, posting on X. The thought's disturbing. Did he track me from that post? The knock turns to a bang, like he's testing the door. A loud crash hits the back window, glass splintering. I yell, scrambling back, tire iron slipping in my sweaty grip. The horror of him breaking in is real now, no escape. I think about my safe, the cash inside, worthless now. This isn't about money, it's about me. The banging stops, and I hear metal scrape, like he's prying the door. My mind flashes to a podcast about a serial killer targeting travelers, leaving bodies in places like this. Is this him? It's terrifying. The door creaks, and I swing the tire iron blindly, hitting nothing. His laugh cuts through, cold and unhinged. "Nice try," he says, and the door pops open. I'm screaming, swinging again, but he's fast, dodging and grabbing my arm. The tire iron clatters, and I'm defenseless. The terror's blinding, and I'm kicking myself for trusting old Blue to keep me safe. His face is shadowed under the cap, but his eyes gleam, like he lives for this. I thrash, but he's stronger, dragging me out. Pain explodes as something sharp stabs my side. I scream, blood soaking my shirt, and he shoves me to the ground. The rail yard's cold, rusted tracks digging into my back. The horror of dying here, alone, hits hard. I think of my brother, how he'll hear about this on the news, another Gary tragedy. My mistake was thinking I could outrun this. That van life made me untouchable. He kneels, knife glinting, and I see his face, gas station guy, grinning like a demon. He drags me toward his car, and I'm fighting, weak but desperate. The knife's at my throat now, and I'm pleading, but his eyes are empty, like he's done this a dozen times. The thought's disturbing. He's a killer, and I'm just another mark. I think of my van life days, the freedom, the road, all stolen in this cruel moment. Blood's pooling, my strength fading. I should have stayed in Evansville, listened to Cal, anything but this. The rail yard's silent, no one to hear my screams. He mutters something about cleaning up, and I know I'm not his first. The tragedy isn't just my death, it's the life I thought I'd built, crumbling in this forgotten place. I claw at the ground, trying to crawl, but he yanks me back, knife slicing deeper. My vision blurs, the pain overwhelming. I whisper Cal's name, a final apology, as the world fades. He loads me into his car, the knife still pressed against me. I'm barely conscious, the blood loss taking over. The factory, the lot, the rail yard, they're all part of Gary's dark heart, swallowing me whole. My van life dream, my escape, ends in a killer's hands, a brutal, senseless end. The last thing I hear is his hum, a twisted lullaby, as the darkness claims me. The car door slams, and I'm gone, another ghost in Gary's shadows, my story buried in the rust and ruin. The killer drives off, leaving Old Blue behind, empty and silent, a tomb for my dreams.